What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories. 8RP 201. Duke Inarashi and Neko Viper previous chapter. Next chapter advertisement. When Levi mentioned this place, he suddenly saw Garrett in front of him focusing his eyes on him, and he seemed to be in a daze. No, Levi looks very familiar to me. I seem to have seen you somewhere, but I can't remember it. By the way, can you tell me your name? After hearing this, Levi scratched his head. It seemed that Garrett must have known something about him, but if nothing else happened, he probably wasn't very impressed. Advertisement after all, he is not a human being, so he does not have such a keen sense of human appearance. My name is Levi. I think you should have heard of this name, but you don't have to worry. Although I am called Levi, my purpose of coming here is not to do anything bad. Levi wrote 760 in 7 seconds, but at this moment Garrett jumped up, his eyes widened, and there was a strange light in his eyes. You are the Levi who overturned the rule of the world government and completely overturned the entire world structure with your own power. Oh my god, I just saw you in the newspaper 2 days ago. No wonder I said you looked so familiar. I didn't expect it was Nick. Why would you come to our place? After he said this, he showed a vigilant expression. CBED. Advertisement, in my impression, you should have started attacking the world government first, and the world government has been saying that you were a bad person. When you came here, didn't you really intend to do something bad? Garrett looked at Levi with nervous eyes, but after hearing Garrett's words, Levi smiled and tilted his head and asked again. Let me ask you something. Do you think that with my strength, I have the ability to take care of everyone on Zingzogiri Island? Levi's question stunned Garrett for a moment, but Garrett raised his head again after thinking about it for a moment. I remember that you are very powerful and can even overthrow the world government by yourself. If this is really the case, then of course the people on our island are nothing compared to the people of the world government. He suspected that Levi, Noxel's other side, burst out laughing once. Advertisement, you're right. You people are nothing compared to the world government. I don't have any objections to you on this point. Since I can even take down the world government on my own, you think I can't do anything to you. But do you think I'm a little bit ready to take action against you now? When Levi said this time Garrett also tilted his head and fell into deep thought. After hearing what Levi said, he also nodded. It's okay if you say that. If that's the case, then I can believe that you didn't come here to do bad things, but you have to tell me clearly what you want to do. I came to this place to look for something called red historical text. I think someone here should know about it. Levi finished speaking, and at this moment Garrett's eyes showed a blank expression. 202. The strange system on the island previous chapter. Next chapter advertisement. What is the red historical text? I have never heard of such a thing, but I think our boss should know this thing very well, so I can take you to meet them. Garrett said this, and Robin on the other side also looked a little confused after hearing this. Do you still have a boss? What is his identity? Is he someone similar to your king? Or is he your leader? Robin's eyes fell on Garrett. He was obviously very interested in this matter, and more importantly, if he could know the simple system between them, he could also roughly deduce their current situation. What stage is the entire tribe in? Advertisement. In fact, in the process of human civilization evolution, at the very beginning, the relationships between people were all tribes and tribes. But gradually, tribes will form concepts such as villages, cities, and countries. What Robin wants to verify now is which of the 10 stages among the fur tribe they're currently in. On the other hand, after Garrett heard this, he immediately tilted his head and thought about it, and finally raised his head again. We have a total of 2 bosses. One is in charge of the day. His name is Duke Inarashi, and the other is in charge of the night. He is our night boss. His name is Neko Viper. It is said that a long time ago, the relationship between Neko Viper and Duke Inarashi was very close. At that time, they were still good friends, but I don't know what happened. Suddenly, from one day onwards, the relationship between the two of them became very bad. Advertisement. And this kind of badness doesn't just mean that 2 people don't like each other, but it's so bad that they will start fighting as soon as they meet, and they won't stop until one of them dies. But the 2 of them are the leaders of our entire island. Therefore, although the 2 of them originally ruled the island together, if any one of them falls, it will cause a lot of chaos. Garrett spoke seriously. When he said this, he was still on the other side. Robin then took out a notebook and began to write down what he heard in the notebook. Please give me flowers. Of course, Robin's actions made Garrett feel a little confused, so after hearing this, he tilted his head and looked at Robin and asked in confusion. What are you doing? Advertisement. His identity is an archaeologist, so after he heard these strange things, of course he wanted to record them all. Maybe this would be a very useful document for him. Research material. Levi explained with a smile on the side. 20. Robin stopped and nodded immediately after Levi's explanation, agreeing with Levi's statement. But this kind of thing made Garrett feel more curious. He also raised his head, his eyes fell on Robin, and then asked, what does archaeologist mean? It sounds like fun. The general content of my work is to find out some ancient things, what they are used for, and where they come from. In the process, will I experience many things? 203. The scene of Fur Tribe? Previous chapter. Next chapter advertisement. When Robin said this, he explained it to Gallet with a serious look. After hearing what Robin said, his eyes suddenly lit up. 20. Gallet. That is to say, this is similar to a detective game, right? I know that the profession of detective seems to be a very interesting profession, so I am envious of your job now. Can I join you if possible? If you want to hear the truth, 657, I'm afraid I can only tell you in a very Levi way. It seems impossible, because to become an archaeologist, you need to learn a lot of knowledge. But you have never been exposed to these things before, so I think you are not suitable to be an archaeologist. Advertisement. But if you are willing and you like taking risks, you can become an adventurer, because adventurers mostly go out for adventure. Robin said this seriously, which made Garrett feel a little disappointed, and then sighed helplessly. Well, it seems that I can't continue to be an archaeologist with you, but it doesn't matter. My dream is not to become an archaeologist. I hope to become a powerful fur tribe warrior. Garrett clenched his fists when he said this, but at this moment Robin interrupted Garrett, and then asked seriously, compared to what you just said about Neko Viper and Duke Inuarashi, the story between the two is not finished yet. One day, we don't know why, the two bosses, Neko Viper and Duke Inuarashi, suddenly started to become life and death enemies. It is precisely because of this, we can only separate the two of them and let them appear alone in the daytime. Another person appears in the night. Advertisement. So now the entire island is divided into two stages. Day and night. Some people will only appear during the day, while others will appear most of the time at night. All people who appear during the day are dogs. Duke Land is under the jurisdiction, and all the people who appear at night are under the command of Cat Viper. Garrett spoke seriously, and under such circumstances, everyone present naturally nodded after hearing Garrett's description. Levi also raised his head and glanced at the sky at this time, and then fell into deep thought. It should be daytime now, so we should go find Duke Inuarashi now. You were right. In that case, then you can come with us. I can take you to see Duke Inuarashi now. Advertisement. But it's already past 6 o'clock now. Our Inuarashi Duke will fall asleep on time at 8 o'clock every night, so we have to speed up now. As Garrett spoke, he nodded, and at the same time, the two people present immediately agreed with Garrett's statement, so under Garrett's leadership, they also headed towards the jungle, walked into the depths. However, Robin would poke around from time to time along the way. What first made him more concerned was that this island actually lived on the back of an elephant, so how did they survive? After all, there is only a lot of leather on the back of this elephant, and there is not much soil or the like to provide an environment for plants to grow. However, although he is studying here, his speed has not dropped. 204. Crops of the Fur Tribe previous chapter next chapter. Advertisement. In the following period of time, everyone quickly reached the depths of the jungle, and under the leadership of Garrett, they passed through layers of dense woods. Immediately afterwards, in the next period of time, a city appeared in front of them. The appearance of this city completely shocked Robin. I didn't expect that there would be a city in a place like this. As he spoke, he raised his head and looked at the pomegranate building, but Levi also reached out and rubbed his head at this time, and then said, Okay, now is not the time for us to discuss these things. Instead of studying the contents of this town, we might as well go and sign with Duke Inuarashi first, and I think you should be more interested in the contents of the red historical text. Advertisement. When Levi said this, Robin nodded immediately, but there was nothing wrong with what Levi said. After all, Levi had said before that the red historical text recorded how to reach Raftel. Raftel is a very magical island. At least so far, nothing about Raftel has emerged, so in the eyes of many people, Raftel is naturally full of mystery. Under such a premise, since they have not yet found Raftel's exit, Robin, an archaeologist, definitely hopes to go there to meet him. He really wanted to know what kind of creatures there were on this island, and no one had been to this island for so many years, which meant that this island must have preserved a very ecological environment. Advertisement. In thousands of years, there was an island that had never been affected by humans. What would such a place look like? His heart was full of longing. In the following period, Levi's eyes quickly became much calmer. Everyone walked into the city, and soon after, they discovered that there were many fur tribes that looked similar to Garrett in the streets and alleys. It's just that these fur tribes, although they are all half human and half beast, their appearance is also different. Some are more like rabbits, some are more like monkeys, etc. The people in the city were naturally very enthusiastic, and they all greeted Garrett after he came back. However, after seeing Levi and Robin here, they also felt a little curious. Advertisement. But Garrett didn't know how to explain Levi's identity to everyone at the moment, so he only said that he was a guest of Duke and Agong. 600. Under such a premise, of course other people would not ask any more questions, but on the other side Levi and the others passed through the city again, and these times they came to a very lush jungle. But compared with the previous jungle, the goals here have some more changes. For example, the trees here are more or less entangled with some vines and some fruits are attached to them. The area around here is our crops, and most of the food we need in our lives comes from here. And there is very little meat on this island, so most of the time we can only survive on wild fruits. 205. Customs and Customs of the Fur Tribe previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. While introducing everyone, Garrett pointed to the fruit interpreters on the surrounding vines, and then said to Levi and Robin, If you are not interested, you can also taste these fruits. Because of the taste of these fruits it's still very good, at least we all love it. After hearing this, Robin was immediately very interested. Immediately afterwards, an arm suddenly grew on the vine, and then the arm was picked from the tree, and several fruits were dropped. Advertisement. These fruits were intercepted by Levi with precision. When Garrett saw this scene on the other side, he was startled and his eyes widened, and his eyes were like copper bells. Precisely because of this, he naturally felt very incredible. His eyes fell on Robin, and then asked in a very shocked tone. Oh my god, this is really amazing. How on earth did you do it? What's so strange about this? You can do it as long as you eat devil fruit, because I am a person with the ability of flower fruit, so I can be anywhere without growing a certain part of my body. Robin said this, and on the other side, Garrett naturally understood the ins and outs of the matter, but he was still very shocked after the incident. His eyes fell on Robin, and it could be seen from the expression on his face. He is completely dumbfounded now. Advertisement. I have heard before that there are many magical people in this world. I have always wanted to see them before, but I didn't expect that I actually saw them today. After he said this, he also showed a shocked expression during the next period of time. At the same time, Levi couldn't help laughing after hearing this. In fact, there is nothing surprising about this, because there are so many magical things in this world. If you go outside this elephant island and take a look, you will find that there are still many magical things in this world. A lot of stuff you've never seen before. As Levi's words fell, Garrett's eyes became even brighter, and then his gaze fell on Levi. Then he asked in a very shocked tone, then can you take it with you? Shall I go see the outside world? Advertisement. When Garrett said this, Levi was stunned for a moment, but he hesitated in his heart whether he should make such a decision. After all, it would be great if he could take such a little rabbit with him. But after thinking for a moment, he still shook his head, and then he showed a serious expression and said to Garrett, actually, I also want to take you out with you, but with this, money is good. Your risk will be much greater than before. The dangers you will encounter when you follow us are not just as simple as meeting a tiger in the jungle. It may even cost you your life. There are hundreds or thousands of enemies. After Levi finished explaining, Garrett followed closely and recalled the news about Levi that he had seen before. What Levi said was indeed correct. 206. Garrett's dream. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. After all, he clearly remembered that time before, when he had seen something about Levi. At that time, Levi was alone in the face of thousands of troops, but he still acted calm and calm. Look. Advertisement. After hearing this and recalling the previous content, he suddenly showed a shocked and incredulous expression, then his eyes widened, and his gaze fell on Levi, and then he asked nervously, is it the same as before? If I were around you, would I often encounter such scary scenes? He mentioned this place, but Levi's eyes fell on him, and he couldn't help but be stunned for a moment, because looking at Garrett's appearance, no matter how he looked, it didn't look like he was afraid, but rather he had some expectation. This made Levi 950 couldn't help but sigh helplessly, but he still explained to Robin seriously, don't forget that wherever we usually go when we go out, we are flying around in the sky. You can fly? If you can't fly, how are you going to stay with us? This time Garrett was stunned for a moment, obviously a little disappointed. He seemed to be yearning for the world beyond the sea, but after hearing Levi's words, he also felt that his dream had been shattered. Advertisement. But when Levi looked at him, he couldn't help laughing again, reached out and rubbed his head, and then said seriously, don't worry, in this world, you will meet one day. Belong to your companion, that companion will lead you to any place in the world. When Levi said this, Garrett was stunned for a moment, but then he raised his head again, flashing light in Levi's eyes, and then asked even more excitedly, in that case, what about when will our companions show up? No one knows this, because you won't know that he is your companion until the day your classmate shows up, and before that, what you should do is to work hard to live a good life every day, and wait until you are at your best when your companions meet you. CBDC. Levi welcomes the fall. This time Garrett nodded seriously, showing a serious tone. It can be seen from the expression on his face that he feels very deep in his heart now. Expect. Advertisement. It is precisely because of this that in the next period of time, he naturally started to jump around even when walking. However, following everyone, he went all the way deep into the jungle. After a while, he saw the jungle. There was a small house among them, and there were many people gathered around the small house. It was at this time that Garrett pointed to the house not far away, and then explained to everyone present. This is where our Duke Inarashi lives, and he should be in the house now. Inside, if you want to see him, just come with me. After hearing Garrett's story, Levi nodded. Next to Levi, Robin's steps even became faster. It could be seen from the expression on his face that he now the whole person is very excited. It was precisely because of this that in the following period of time, he swallowed hard at this time. 207. Duke Inarashi. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. The group of people quickly walked into the room not far away. When they came to the door of this room, they discovered that someone was guarding the door, so the eyes of the figure fell on Gallo. Then he asked in a very stern tone, Gallet, why did you come to this place? After Garrett heard this, he hesitated for a moment, but he nodded seriously, and then said to the leopard-like fur tribe in front of him, I came to this place because we are here. Several guests came, they came from other places, but they wanted to meet Duke Inarashi. Advertisement. The man not far away laid his eyes on Levi. Levi looked up and down, and then he reached out and scratched his head, showing a puzzled expression. Is it my imagination? This guest, why do I feel that you look familiar? My name is Levi. I think you should have heard of this name. As for me, I don't need to introduce it. If you know it, you will definitely be able to remember it right away. Levi welcomed the man who had fallen down. He thought for a few seconds at first, but then he jumped up, which was higher than the house. Then he fell heavily to the ground, with a look of confusion on his face, an expression of disapproval. Are you the legendary Levi who destroyed the entire world government alone? I didn't expect to see you in this place today. It's really great. I have always wanted to be your fan. I wanted to meet you, but I didn't expect you to take the initiative to appear in front of me. Advertisement, of course it's not as exaggerated as you said. The reason why I was able to destroy the world government was actually not only due to me, but also to my subordinates. It's just that all of my subordinates died in that war. So I have no choice but to do this. When Levi mentioned this place, he felt a little helpless and regretful. Those people were actually very good subordinates to Levi. At least they had always been loyal to Levi, even if their original purpose was just I hope I can get some benefit from Levi. Please give me flowers. Zero in such a situation. All of these people have died. Levi, there is no one around him who can talk to him, but he still feels a little helpless in his heart. Advertisement more importantly, now that the world government has been collectively destroyed by Levi, even if he wants to find someone to take revenge, he can't find a place to take revenge, which is why he feels even more depressed now. Time passed little by little. In the next period of time, you relied on the expression on his face to become a little irritable, but compared to this, he came to this place for a purpose, so he quickly came back to his senses. By the way, I came to this place hoping to meet Duke Inarashi, so I hope you can inform him for me. After Levi finished speaking, the leopard-headed man also agreed to Levi's request at this time. He turned around and entered the house, and came out again after a while. 208. Purpose achieved previous chapter next chapter advertisement. Our Duke Inarashi became very interested in you after hearing about you, so he hopes to meet you immediately. If possible, you can go in with me to meet him now. Bar. Okay, no problem. Don't worry, I understand what you mean. Levi nodded, followed the footsteps of the man in front of him, and walked into the 863 house. After a while, he followed closely inside the house and saw a giant sitting there, of kobolds. Advertisement: the kobold's appearance is no different from that of a dog, but its size is really too big, and it has thick fur on its body. This size is undoubtedly full of oppression for the Chinese people present. After noticing someone coming in from outside the door, he also turned his head and glanced at everyone, but then when he saw Levi, he jumped up. Are you Levi? I heard just now that you would come to this place to meet us. Although I was very happy, it was only after I actually saw you that I realized that you were even bigger than I thought. It makes people feel more impactful. As he spoke, he invited Levi to sit down. 20 Levi didn't mean to be polite at all. After everyone sat down, Duke Inwarashi followed the validator and asked Levi. By the way, I didn't know you were coming. Are you looking for me here for something? Or do you want to visit this place? Advertisement: in fact, he still had some guesses in his heart. After all, Levi had just subverted the entire world government, and no one had ever achieved such an ability before. Exactly, so in the next period of time, Levi is likely to restore the world's needs. After all, under normal circumstances, after a person destroys the government that originally controlled the world, he may establish a world government of his own. At this time, it is not surprising that Levi would come to this place. After all, he has nothing but fur. The clan is also a force that cannot be underestimated in the entire new world. So the current Duke Inwarashi is naturally very serious, but Levi couldn't help but laugh after seeing Duke Inwarashi's solemn expression, and then waved his hand, and then he got acquainted and said, "Don't worry. Well, the purpose of my coming to this place is not for anything else. I always hope to see the red text here." Advertisement: red historical text. Why do you need that thing? Duke Inarashi was obviously a little confused, but he quickly came to his senses. After all, this was Levi's own secret, and he was just doing a favor, so of course he thought about it for a while at this time, and then nodded. Actually, I don't really like showing these things to outsiders, but if you are willing to see them, of course I don't think there is a problem. After all, you are the ruler of this world, so I think you should also read the content recorded on it. Learn about. Duke Inarashi said as he led everyone out of the house, and then walked toward the deep roots of the forest, but there was a huge tree there, and its shape looked like a blue whale. 209. The meaning of historical texts previous chapter next chapter. Advertisement: after everyone walked out of the room, they walked into the lush forest under the leadership of Duke Inarashi. At the same time, Duke Inarashi's eyes fell on the forest in front of him. Here, the eyes have become a little emotional. Speaking of the red historical text, we have been storing it for many years. In all these years, we have not dared to act rashly. We did not expect that the destined person we have been waiting for before would actually appear here today. After Duke Inarashi said this, he told everyone present an unknown history. It turned out that when he was very young, he sailed on the sea for a period of time with Roger, the pirate king at that time. Advertisement: at that time, although the 21-year-old Roger had not yet become the well-known pirate king, he had already made unremitting efforts to dominate the world, and more importantly, his strength was already very strong at that time. In addition, he is not only powerful, but also has a unique personality charm. Under the influence of this charm, both Duke Inarashi and Neko Viper became Roger's subordinates without hesitation. But after arriving there, they followed Roger and sailed on the sea. But after a long time, they gradually arrived at what people call the final island, Raftel. After arriving at Raftel, they had already seen what the scene was like there, but after leaving there, Roger had already made his decision. Advertisement: our captain told us at that time that he had fulfilled his dream, so he hoped to get us all away from him, and what he would do next was to surrender to the world government. But the main reason why he did this is actually to use the world government as a microphone, because what he wants is for the whole world to work together to overthrow the entire world government. Duke Inarashi's eyes and expressions became very strange when he said this. On the other side, Levi and Garrett were both stunned at the same time after hearing this. They even felt a little curious for a moment. Stand up. And what's more important is that before this, both Levi and Garrett had been exposed to news about the dark side of the world government case. Similarly, Ji Wei naturally had nothing to hide in front of Luo Bao. Advertisement. So after Levi told Robin these things, Robin quickly followed and wrote these things down firmly, because he knew very well that for him, in the next period of time, everything there are not a few things that need to be remembered. 910. But after getting the description of Duke Inarashi, he became even more excited, because if what Roger said was true, then he must know something. Duke Inarashi is also very clear about the things Levi described to him before about I am. If you think back carefully, what Sister Luo did seems to be very meaningful, and it was even planned long ago. If this is really the case, it would be terrible. After all, from everything Roger does, we can see some clues behind it. 210. Roger's plan. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. For example, Roger took the initiative to surrender to the world government. This incident naturally caused a sensation all over the world, because at that time, Roger already had very powerful energy, and he controlled the most powerful pirate group in the world. Under such circumstances, Roger has even reached the final island, and Raftel already has almost all the wealth and fame in the world. Such a person should choose to continue to live his life freely. But no one expected that at this critical moment, the world government suddenly announced that they had captured Roger, and would immediately begin to execute Roger. This naturally attracted the attention of almost everyone in the world, and under this premise, Roger and all the crew members in the group were also involved at this time. Advertisement. In fact, based on the power that Roger had at that time, it is no exaggeration to say that as long as he wanted, he could lead his troops into the world government and rescue Roger, but he didn't do that. There were even rumors at the time that the moment Roger was beheaded, there were dozens of pirate groups surrounding the entire world government, all of whom had been helped by Roger. All of them are Roger's friends, and it is precisely because of this that after they learned that Roger was going to be executed, they naturally chose to help Roger. Under such circumstances, Roger ultimately did not choose to accept help from anyone, nor did he make any move to resist, but just went to die calmly. This naturally made everyone in the world feel a sense of panic at this time. Shock. Advertisement. In addition, in the following period of time, Roger once again said such a popular saying, which is still clearly remembered by everyone in the world even to this day. Do you want my treasure? I put everything there. As long as you can give it there, then you can know all my wealth. After these words of logic were spoken, the Age of Discovery was launched at this time. From that moment on, although this sea was not peaceful in the past, there were only a few people who were constantly launching struggles. The days started to get progressively more lively. And under such circumstances, more than 20 years passed in one breath. Before Levi destroyed the world government, the sea was already covered with pirates, and a large number of pirates were doing whatever they wanted throughout the sea. Advertisement. In fact, it can be seen from this point that the world government has long lost a certain degree of dominance over the world. However, under this premise, Roger was actually the murderer behind the plan and promotion of this incident. After saying this, everyone was naturally shocked. Good. But what Duke Inwarashi said, although it sounds incredible, no one will doubt that what he said is false, so in the following period of time, everyone present naturally came to their senses quickly. Then do you know what the treasure hidden on Raftel is? Duke Inarashi couldn't hold back the curiosity in his heart and asked. 211. Interlocking Truths. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. After hearing Robin's question, Duke Inarashi also laughed. Then he turned his head and his eyes fell on Robin. I guessed that you would ask this question, but this was an agreement made between me and our captain at that time. I cannot tell anyone in the world, even if the other person is my closest friend. I will never tell anyone about it. If you want to know the answer, you will naturally know the answer when you arrive at that place, but before that, you need to be very powerful to get there. Duke Inarashi's words were full of hints, but he soon sighed. Advertisement. Of course, I think this is not important compared to this. I hope that you can make full use of the role of this thing after getting the red 910 historical text I gave you, and although that period of time has passed, but he will definitely be a very amazing piece of history in the development of the entire world up to now. Hearing this, Levi had already vaguely guessed something. If nothing else happened, then everything Roger did and every move he made secretly must be linked to the world government. If this is the case, then Roger, everything he does must have been planned in his heart. Time passed bit by bit. CBBF, in the next period of time, he naturally didn't say anything more about it. On the other side, Levi felt a little curious as the time passed. He wanted to know what the so-called red historical text is. Advertisement. It was under this situation that Duke Inwarashi on the other side raised his head and looked at the sky again. Speaking of it, I actually want to take you to see the red historical text, what it looks like, and take you to the place where it is stored, but it seems that I can't do it now. After hearing this, everyone present couldn't help but be stunned for a moment. Their eyes fell on Duke Inwarashi. For a moment, some of them couldn't figure out what Duke Inwarashi meant. But at this moment, Duke Dalen suddenly sighed. My biological clock is that I have to go to bed at 6 o'clock every day, and it's almost time for me to go to bed now, so of course I have to go to bed at this time. I'm really sorry, everyone. Advertisement. His voice fell, and everyone present couldn't help being stunned for a moment after hearing this. Their eyes fell on Duke Inarashi, and suddenly they didn't know where to start talking. Garrett followed closely and was stunned. They originally thought that Duke Inarashi must have encountered some trouble, so he could not take everyone to the place where the red historical text was stored, But now it seems that Duke Inarashi is just sleepy, and this sounds like naturally, it gives people a not so serious feeling. But no matter what, since Duke Inarashi has said that he is willing to lead everyone to the place where the red historical text is stored, then naturally they should go to that place to take a look. Levi also nodded lightly. It's okay, I know this may be a very important thing to you. 212. It's time to sleep. Previous chapter. Next chapter advertisement. Since you have decided that you are going to bed later, then you can go to bed first. We are not in a hurry for this short while. I have plenty of time now, so we can wait until you wake up tomorrow. Let's go see it again. When he said this, Duke Inarashi on the other side burst out laughing, then raised his head and looked into the distance, and started shouting again. Neko Viper, you bastard, get out of here quickly. We have guests here. After hearing this, Levi suddenly remembered that Garrett had described to him the things between Duke Inarashi and Cat Viper. According to Garrett, Duke Inarashi when signing with Cat Viper, they should be bronze brothers. But no one knows what happened. After that incident, Duke Inarashi and Neko Viper turned into enemies. They even started fighting whenever they met, and even to the point of deciding the outcome of life and death. This naturally, it gives people a very ridiculous feeling. Advertisement. But looking at the situation now, if nothing else happens, there should still be a connection between the two of them. Even the relationship is not as bad as Garrett said before, but no matter what is behind this matter, the thing is, actually this is not important to Levi and the others. The most important thing for them now is how they can see the red historical text, and what exactly is recorded in the red historical text. That is to say, under such circumstances, for each of them, in the next period of time, the expressions on each of their faces became very excited. Just when everyone around him was still feeling a little confused, at the same time, a series of sparse sounds suddenly came from the jungle. Advertisement. And at this moment, a shadow actually jumped out of the woods. Immediately after, a very huge but seemingly very flexible shadow emerged from the woods. After a few jumps, he landed steadily in front of everyone. Levi then raised his head and looked at the figure in front of him. Only then did he realize that the figure in front of him was not a person, but a cat, or to be precise, a half-human half-cat fur race. Please give me flowers. His appearance is no different from that of a cat. There's a very huge tail behind him and a cat head. He is just very fat. The hair all over his body is golden, and he looks majestic like a lion. Advertisement. His eyes fell on Duke Inarashi, and at this moment he naturally showed an angry expression, and then asked coldly. Why are you, Duke Inarashi, a bastard here? Didn't I tell you not to enter my territory? Are you here to fight? His tone seemed very angry, but at this moment, Duke Inarashi suddenly pointed at Levi beside him. Who are these two people? After hearing Duke Inarashi's question, Neko Viper was stunned for a moment, then turned his attention to Levi and the others, tilting his head and looking at you with a little doubt. 213. Cat Viper. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. These people look familiar to me, but for a while I couldn't remember where I had seen them. Could it be that we had met them before? But who are you? How can I don't remember at all? Wuhan was still asking at this time, but at this time Duke Inarashi had already said Levi's name, and after hearing the name, Cat Viper also showed, 907, like all the people who had heard Levi's name before. Like people, they were stunned for a moment. I saw his pair of eyes suddenly rounded like a pair of copper bells, staring at Levi in front of him, and then asked in a trembling voice, Are you a legend? The Levi among them. Advertisement. Yes, he is the Levi I told you before, who helped us fulfill our captain's wish, but I didn't expect that he would take the initiative to find this place. And the purpose of his coming here is also very simple, that is, he hopes to see the historical text that the captain placed on our island. Duke Inarashi roughly told Levi and Neko Viper the purpose of coming here, and at the same time Neko Viper also listened very seriously. That is to say, under such circumstances, the eyes of the two of them communicated with each other. After a moment, he seemed to be discussing something. I think behind this matter, if possible, we can actually agree to him. Advertisement. Anyway, I have not forgotten that the captain said before that he kept this thing. The main purpose is to hope that one day a destined person can get this thing. And what he wants is for a destined person to be able to help the captain fulfill his wish after getting the red historical text. But now the captain's wish has been fulfilled, and world government has completely ceased to exist and has become history. Since someone has fulfilled the captain's wish before getting the gift left by the captain, of course there is no need for this gift, so who should it be given to? Neko Viper said this, and Duke Inarashi on the other side also nodded. Obviously, the two of them have the same point of view on this matter. In this case, for them, Levi came to this place and the need for red historical texts is not something any of them have any problem with. Advertisement. After hearing Neko Viper and agreeing to this matter, Duke Inarashi also yawned at this time, then rubbed his eyes, raised his head and looked at the sun that was gradually setting on the horizon, and then received. Now it's time for me to go to bed, so I have to go to bed. As for the next thing, I'll leave it to you. As for how you handle the last thing, I won't ask too much. When Duke Inarashi finished speaking, Levi was about to say hello to Duke Inarashi 3.3 so that Duke Inarashi could go to bed first, but at this moment he discovered a very strange thing, that is, Duke Inarashi actually directly lying down on the ground. Immediately after Levi's shocked gaze, Duke Inarashi began to snore directly, which meant that he had fallen into a deep sleep. This made Levi roll his eyes. 214. A place where historical texts are stored. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Although there are indeed some people in this world whose biological clocks are very strict, so they will definitely go to bed when it's time to sleep, but Duke Nuarashi is too strict. After all, just now, he was still talking to himself, and he looked very interested, and he was talking about something very important, but he turned around and closed his eyes and fell asleep. This naturally made Levi feel a little surprised, but while he was surprised, he couldn't help laughing. Duke Nuarashi was indeed a very interesting person, so he didn't say anything more than this at the time. Of course, at the same time, he also developed some interest in Neko Viper at this time. Since Duke Nuarashi 21 is such an interesting person, Neko Viper should be about the same as Duke Nuarashi. Advertisement. Thinking of this, he also cast his eyes on Cat Viper beside him at this time. After thinking for a moment, he raised his head and said to Cat Viper seriously, I know what's in your heart right now. What are you thinking? But now that we have reached this point, of course I still hope you can accept me. Quote. After he finished speaking, Cat Viper nodded immediately, and then waved to everyone. He has always been like this, so you don't have to feel too strange. Anyway, since we already know each other and I have recognized you, then you can just follow me. I have already promised to hand over the red historical text to you, so of course I will not go back on it, so you just need to rest assured. Advertisement. After he said this, he followed closely and waved to everyone present, gesturing for everyone to follow him. At the same time, Levi and the others of course followed quickly. Anyway, since they had already come this far one step, then of course they have to complete this step. It is precisely because of this that in the following period, everyone present quickly reacted and followed the Cat Viper towards the woods. On the other side, Garrett seemed a little nervous, wanting to retreat. However, Cat Viper stopped him immediately, and then said to Garrett alone, Don't worry, although this matter is very confidential, it is no longer a secret, so you want to, it doesn't matter if you know, you just need to keep up. After hearing this, Garrett met again, but the curiosity in his heart finally defeated his reason and nervousness, so he quickly followed everyone at this time. Advertisement. Some people walked towards the depth of the woods, and under such circumstances, they finally came to the center of the woods. At that moment, Levi had already seen the big tree. This big tree looks like a whale, and there is a secret passage underneath this big tree. Everyone's eyes fell on this secret passage, and then they looked inside. Only then did they realize that it was very dark inside, which gave people a very strange feeling at first glance. But no matter what, now that this passage has reached this point, this matter will certainly give people a very strange situation for them. 215. Finally seen. Read historical text. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Everyone's eyes fell on this big tree, and they looked into the grass. At the same time, the Cat Viper had also turned around, and then said to everyone present with a serious face, although it is said that this piece of red historical text no longer has the value of the captain leaving them behind. But for me and that old bastard Duke Nuarashi, this is still a relic left by the captain to us, so it is still very important to us. In this case. Advertisement. Of course we don't want him to be taken away like this, so you have to stay after reading. F. When Cat Viper said this, the people present naturally nodded, and then in the next period of time, everyone continued to walk deeper into the woods. This dark passage with its 9 twists and turns makes people feel very cumbersome just walking in it. However, the Cat Viper in front of the other side seems to be very awake, just leading the way all the way. Any hesitation or pause means. Since everyone present was already in trouble, Cat Viper was naturally embarrassed to continue leaving, so under such circumstances, they naturally did not say anything more, but followed Cat Viper all the way. In this way, they soon followed Cat Viper to the depths of this passage, and within a short time they saw a bright light appearing in front of them. Advertisement. Time passed little by little, and when everyone's eyes fell on the depths of the passage, they soon discovered that the depths of this passage turned out to be a very huge space. At first glance, within this space, there are various tree roots all around, which are intertwined, and in the center of this space, there is a huge red stone. There were many words carved on the surface of this stone, and Garrett, who was beside Levi, was stunned for a moment after seeing this scene. He had never seen such a place before, so this was the first time he knew that there was such a magical place on this island. However, compared with the doubts in his heart now, the other side Robin was the one who was even more shocked. After he saw the huge red stone, he couldn't control his emotions and quickened his pace and walked forward quickly. Advertisement. That is to say, under such circumstances, he had quickly arrived in front of the big red stone, and then his eyes fell on the big stone. He carefully stared at the content on the stone. I can't control my mood. Quote. I didn't expect that such a thing existed in this world. It seems that I was still a little ignorant before. When he said this, it can be seen from the expression on his face, Nuo Mojao, that he is very excited now. Under such circumstances, everyone here heard this and he burst into laughter. Anyway, things have come to this point, so of course they can't say anything more. What's more important now is for Robin to read the content on the red historical text. At the same time, the cat also stopped. 216. Joey Boy's story. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. This is the big stone left by the captain back then, and we have never been able to understand the contents of restraint on this big stone. Since you are interested in the content on this stone, you can observe it carefully here. I will wait for you here, because it will be more complicated to get there when you go out later. If I don't lead you, there's a good chance you'll get lost. Robin nodded, followed closely, and soon came to the side of the big stone. Then his eyes fell on the big stone, and he read every word on it carefully. Advertisement. Levi was waiting quietly on the side to see what kind of 737 content Robin could read at this time. On the other hand, Robin was in a strange state. Look at him, it seemed that the whole person had become quiet. But Levi was not in a hurry. Time passed little by little, and he didn't know how long it took before Robin finally recovered from that strange state of contemplation. He raised his head again, and his eyes fell on Levi's body, and then it can be seen from the expression on his face that he is now completely shocked. I didn't expect that something like this would happen on this island. Now it seems to be even more surprising than I imagined. But there is nothing surprising about this, because since we have arrived on this island, we should naturally know that there is a lot of truth behind this world. Advertisement. Robin's voice fell, and at the same time, it could be seen from the expression on his face that he was very excited now. So what exactly is recorded on this piece of stone? I have always been curious about what is recorded on this piece of historical text. When Levi talked about this place, he followed him closely and showed a curious expression. He had seen the historical text CBAC more than once before, but before that, every time he saw it he has no interest in historical texts. After all, he can't understand the content. So under such circumstances, now that he finally has an archaeologist by his side, and someone who can translate this kind of text, of course Levi has to ask clearly at once. Advertisement. It was under such circumstances that after hearing Levi's question, Robin started laughing, and then said to Levi seriously, I know you should be very interested in this thing, so I think there's nothing strange about it. Actually, the content recorded on this stone tablet is actually a period of history, and this period is a history that has been sealed in the dust. After hearing this, Levi's brows twitched subconsciously. He was also curious at this time and wanted to know what the so-called successful history recorded on it was. But at this time, Robin on the other side also explained to Levi, actually, this is not what Roger wrote down, but a story left by a man named Joey Boy. 217. Joey Boy's Story 2. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Who is Joey Boy? It seems that this name sounds familiar, but I can't remember it for a while. After Levi heard this, he was stunned for a moment, then his eyes fell on Robin and looked Robin up and down, and then he asked with some doubts. Under such circumstances, Robin also laughed after hearing Levi's question, and then explained to Levi unhurriedly, he is a person who lived 800 years ago. He is very powerful. Advertisement. In addition, he also possesses very outstanding abilities, so he can be said to be a powerful presence in that era. But not long after that, some changes happened in his life, and he soon followed. I discovered that there are some truths hidden in this world after this change. 17. In order to expose all these truths, Joey Boy did not hesitate to embark on a journey to find the truth. He wanted to show the real phenomenon behind it to the world, and let the world see it in front of them. All these are false scenes. Robin said this with a serious face, but unexpectedly raised his eyebrows slightly at this time, and his eyes fell on Robin. Obviously for Levi, what Robin said also made Levi feel curious. Time passed bit by bit, and in the next period of time, he was naturally very confused in his heart. Under such circumstances, Robin on the other side quickly froze at this moment. In situ. For Levi, the stories he heard about Joey Boy made Izuru feel familiar for no reason no matter how he looked at them, but he couldn't tell which place he was familiar with. Advertisement. But then he suddenly rang again, and then his eyes fell on Robin again, and then he asked Robin, if I remember correctly, then the world government was the one 800 years ago. Was it established at that time? Levi said this, and at the same time, Robin nodded immediately. At this moment, Levi suddenly froze on the spot. The establishment of world government is actually just a name for IM to capture a large number of people secretly and send them to the Valley of the Gods, and let their blood become his own history. Please give me flowers. Levi had already explained this to Robin before. 20 Robin was naturally shocked when he heard what Levi described. Advertisement. He didn't expect that there were so many stories hidden behind this world, but he quickly became calm about it. Asterisk 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 asterisk. Of course, Levi didn't tell Robin too many things, because it wasn't that he didn't want to tell Robin these things, but because the bank felt that it was useless to tell Robin some things, such as IM's origins. Even if Robin knew that IM came from another world and was the clone of a mysterious figure, Robin still couldn't do anything. Instead, he would only mess up all these things accidentally. At least judging from the current situation, the bank cannot explain all these things to Robin. Maybe after he figures out the truth of the matter, he can tell Robin all these things, but that is not the factory now. 218. Real Thoughts of World Government. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. On the other side, Robin continued to describe what he saw on the red historical text. In order to understand the essence behind this world and where the world government came from, Joey Boy made great determination to investigate all these things clearly. So after this incident, Joey Boy soon began to study this matter and the history of 923 behind it. Advertisement. At the same time, he also realized another thing. The world government at that time had gradually exposed their ambitions, and it was precisely because of this that they began to gradually destroy much of the world's history, and did not allow people to use these histories. Record it down, and Joey Boy certainly understands the purpose of the world government in doing this. In the beginning, world government used a lot of dirty methods in order to gain an advantage in this world. However, if these methods were spread, from then on, their image of world government in front of many people could be said to be it's about to collapse. In order to solve this matter, the world government arrested most of the journalists in the world and those who were responsible for recording various books, and killed them completely. In addition, they also specially trained a group of people to record history, and then erased everything that happened in the past 100 years. Advertisement. But what they didn't expect was that there was another alien in this world. That person's name was Joey Boy. After Joey Boy learned about their ambitions, he followed suit quietly. S decision was made. Since the world government doesn't intend to be a good person, of course they won't be able to let the world government go so easily in the next period of time. Joy Boy began to break down every bit of history of the world and government that he came into contact with, and composed them into fragmented stories, and these stories were recorded in the world using a special kind of writing. History essay above. 17. It's just that the world government has been secretly supervising his actions, but because Joey Boy is strong enough, the world government dare not really do anything to them, but even so, he still faces under tremendous pressure. Advertisement. So he scattered all the contents of these historical texts, but not every piece of historical text has a part of it, and even records the customs and habits of that era, etc. But these historical texts, each piece they all undoubtedly point to the location of the next piece of historical text. But he recorded all the most important contents on 4 pieces of red historical text in the last piece of historical text. As long as these 5 pieces are put together, you can figure out what the world government did back then, and what is the truth behind world government's backing of 2.3. What else could the truth behind the world government be? It is nothing more than a puppet organization controlled by a creature from the first world. Their purpose of existence is only to provide some help and convenience to this first world creature. There is absolutely no foundation behind such an organization. 219. The Darkness 800 years ago. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. After reading the first piece of historical text, the expression on Robin's face obviously became very ugly, because he saw a lot of shocking content from this stone. In order to enhance their own strength in the beginning, world government chose to use many dirty methods. Advertisement. For example, they would forcibly control a group of civilians to become slaves to work for them, and then they would form an efficient country and select some relatively powerful people among them to serve as an army. In addition, they will also put on a hypocritical appearance on the surface to make others believe that they are a group of good people, and at the same time, they will also secretly deceive some entrepreneurs. Many entrepreneurs or wealthy people, after coming into contact with an organization like world government, will find that this organization has very strong capabilities and ambitions, and their ability to do things is also very strong. Such a high-quality partner, plus their purpose is to make the entire world peaceful, and they have always promoted their good things. Under such a premise, world government naturally quickly gained the support of many people and a large amount of money. Advertisement. As these things fell into their hands, they also continued to improve their strength and expand at this time. Hidden behind their hypocrisy is darkness and blood. These secrets have actually been gradually revealed, but because the world government itself is strong enough, they quickly buried all the news. Go down. So behind this incident, of course no one knew about the things that the world government had done back then, and they began to continue to grow and develop at this time. Of course, since they already have certain strength and ability, so being nice to others or doing some good deeds is just a piece of cake. It is precisely because of this that if they keep doing good things, of course they will not take it to heart, so since that incident, they have gradually turned themselves into truly good people, so what? And their purpose of doing good things is just to make others want to believe them, but in this case anyone who threatens them is likely to be attacked by them. Advertisement. There are even some other government organizations and other figures who will disappear quietly. If you investigate afterwards, you will find that they are inextricably linked to world government. Under such circumstances, world government grew and grew as fast as a balloon. This expansion rate continued until Celestial Dragons was established. Since then, the structure of the entire world has roughly become like this, but since that time, the world government has destroyed all the bloody history of their fortune in the previous 100 years. This is also the main reason why many people still don't know what happened in those 10 years. After reading this piece of family history, Robin couldn't help but swallow his saliva. In fact, in his heart, he has always been full of hatred for the world government. 220. The first red text. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Because at that time, the world government destroyed his hometown and killed the people he thought could be his companions. Under such circumstances, he had always hated the world government or certain people. If it weren't for Marine Admiral Aokiji who left him alive, he might have died long ago, but at that time, he still had an ordinary and indifferent attitude towards the world government. Advertisement. Because in his opinion at that time, the main reason why the world government would do such a thing was that some of them were shady. But in any case, this government organization controls the entire world, so it is not surprising that something like this would happen, and at that time, Robin just believed that all the dark parts of the world government needed to be eradicated. But after reading the initial history of world government described by Joey Boy, he discovered at this time that the roots of world government were truly dark and bloody. As for the bright side, it was just their superficial appearance. Part. This is like a house, its foundations are all dark, and its outside is decorated with bright decorations, then if all its foundations are hollowed out. No matter how beautiful the brightly lit decoration on the outside is, it will still collapse completely. Advertisement. After figuring out this matter, Robin's attitude towards world government changed dramatically in an instant, but at this time, he didn't have much trouble with it. After all, since Levi has destroyed the entire world government, Levi's strength is already here, so people don't need to worry too much about it. Under such circumstances, Levi's eyes were on Robin and he followed closely, then he laughed, and then he couldn't help but said slowly, "Actually, these histories are similar to what I imagined, you know. In fact, I once heard that a great man once said that every barrel of capital and primitive accumulation are bloody." Which great man? Don't forget, I am an archaeologist. I think this is simply something you made up. Otherwise, how could I not have heard of it? After Levi heard this, he was stunned for a moment, because he then remembered that the great man who said this was not in this world at all, but it was not important to Levi. Advertisement. Although there is an archaeologist in front of him who is probably the best in the world, so if he brags in front of him, he will definitely be exposed. But it didn't matter, because after hearing this sentence, Robin nodded and gave Levi a look of approval. But no matter what Wang Zhao said, what you just said was indeed not a problem at the time. In this world, most people obtained their wealth through some shady means in the beginning. Support and success. Quote. After Robin said this, his eyes immediately fell on Levi. Now Levi can be said to control the entire world, and at this time, he was also curious about how Levi did it. Ha ha. 221. Mysterious but not mysterious. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. After Levi saw Robin's eyes, he immediately understood what Robin wanted to express, so Levi was not in a hurry, he just laughed leisurely. From the time I became famous until now, everything I have done has been exposed to the public eye. Whether it is me joining forces with 4 emperors or my improving my strength step by step, until today, can I say that there is no one? Is there something you don't know? Levi has always been very confident about this, so after hearing Levi's answer, Robin was also stunned for a moment, showing a strange expression on his face. After he recalled it carefully, he realized that Levi didn't seem to have anything to hide, and to a certain extent, Levi was able to get to where he is today entirely due to his own strength, but if he thought about it carefully, if you think about it, it doesn't seem like this. Advertisement. Because from the time Levi appeared until now, his strength has always given people a very terrifying feeling, and under such circumstances, he always gives people a calm look. But every time he shows off his terrifying power quietly, and under such circumstances, it naturally makes many people secretly curious, where does Levi's terrifying strength, CBFD, come from? Come. If Levi's strength is really what he showed to the world, and he will get a huge improvement every time he disappears and reappears, then this would be too scary. But if this is not the case, then how many things does Levi hide secretly? Then why was he still not famous before? Advertisement. To a certain extent, for most people in the world, Levi is a very simple person, because every time Levi makes any decision, he will let everyone in the world know clearly. But he is also a mysterious person, because until now, looking at Levi from this level, his strength has gone from a person who has just become a little famous among Marines to one who can be said to be the most powerful person in the world today. The process of walking always gives people such a dreamy feeling. No one knows what happened every time Levi disappeared and reappeared. So if Levi is really changing as the world knows him, then his current state can only be described in one word, and that is talent. But what kind of talent can make him like this? If it is really just talent, then why don't others have such talent, and where does Levi's talent come from? Advertisement. No matter what the reason behind this incident is, Levi will always give people a very strange feeling in his heart. But seeing the clear light shining in Levi's eyes, Robin was finally stunned for a moment. Because it can be seen from the expression on his face that what Levi just said seems to have no psychological burden on him in his heart. If this is really the case, then it's too scary. He couldn't believe that what Levi said was completely true. 222. Cat Viper's emotion. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. But if what Levi said is not true, then how did Levi do such horrific things? Thinking of this, his mood became even weirder. In the following period of time, he naturally and slowly regained his composure. Advertisement. Although he still can't figure out how Levi did it, those unbelievable things, but this is just Levi's own secret. It turned out to be Levi's secret, and of course he didn't ask any more. Necessary. Compared with this, the best way now is to solve these things first. After these things are solved, if Levi wants to say something one day, he will definitely tell himself first. After finishing these things, Levi said hello to the cat viper on the other side and told the cat that they had finished reading what they should see, and Gala was not far away. After hearing this, Tay came to his senses at that time. Just now, Robin told everyone about the history of world government back then. Those histories feel very absurd from today's perspective. It was precisely because of this that Garrett had been listening carefully when Robin was describing these stories. But now that he had come back to his senses after listening, he discovered that these stories made people feel spineless just listening to them. Sweat. Under such circumstances, the cat viper on the other side also did the same thing. He had actually vaguely guessed what the red historical text would record before. Don't forget that he once followed Roger, the Pirate King, the crew around you. Advertisement. But after he really understood the more detailed content, he discovered that this part of the content was even more incredible than he imagined. But no matter what, the world government has long been destroyed now. In this case, these things have long become a dusty historical past. Under such a premise, Levi will become a shining star in history from now on, and maybe 100 years from now, there will still be people who remember what he once did. Finally, after Levi finished reading all these contents, he left leisurely. Please give me flowers. In the following period of time, Cat Viper looked at the red historical text and was in a daze. However, when he came back to his senses after a long time, he finally couldn't help but murmur to himself. Started talking. Advertisement. Captain, what you didn't do back then, someone has done it for you now. It seems like you don't have to worry about those things you used to worry about now. Point 0. After Cat Viper said this, it can be seen from the expression on his face that he is very excited in his heart. Finally following the Cat Viper, he has become much calmer now. On the other side of Garrett, he couldn't help but curiously asked. Cat Viper is telling me that the young man named Levi really has such terrifying strength. Why do I feel something is wrong? I don't know if he is so strong, but he is able to make such an attack, so from now on he will be the third master of this world. 223. Chaotic Cake Island. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. When Cat Viper talked about this place, his expression became emotional, and he knew even more clearly that from now on, there would be an extra king in this world. Under such circumstances, the expression on his face naturally changed, but at this time Levi on the other side sighed silently. They have already left this place, and their 750 are about to leave this island now, and their next island is the Cake Island left by Auntie before. There are still many subordinates on Cake Island who originally belonged to Big Mom, but now they have no one to supervise them. However, Levi has not seen what is going on with them for a long time. Advertisement. Under such circumstances, of course he felt a little helpless in his heart. He didn't expect that the ant was dead now, and he would have to wipe his butt with his backhand. But he also knew very well that if the chaotic situation over there happened to him, if it is not resolved, it will only make the people living there more miserable. Under such circumstances, Levi and Robin naturally embarked on a new journey. They went from the current island Luffy to the Cake Island, and when they arrived above the cake, they discovered the Cake Island turned out to be less chaotic than they thought. At this time, standing in midair and looking down, you will find this island. There are many people on the street mixed together in chaos, and it seems that they are in a war. Seeing this scene, Levi sighed helplessly. Although he has not arrived below yet and has not asked what the war is about, Levi can vaguely guess what is going on in this war just by looking at the scene below. Advertisement. It can be said that it is almost unnecessary to think about it, and you can guess that the following people must have started a dispute over the territory left by the big ant. After all, these things should have belonged to Auntie's inheritance. But to whom should these things be managed, or whose belongings should they be considered, is definitely a question that needs to be discussed, so it is definitely impossible for them to convince each other of their brothers and sisters. Time passed little by little, and Levi and Robin were suspended in midair. After watching the scene below for a while, Levi finally made a decision and was ready to go down and take a look. It was under such circumstances that he naturally led Robin to fall downwards from the sky, and everyone on the other side suddenly saw a shadow coming out of the sky. At this time, he was stunned for a moment. Advertisement. Many people raised their heads and looked towards the sky at this time, but after a while, their eyes also fell on Levi, and they quickly saw Levi's appearance clearly. But when they 1.2 saw Levi's face clearly, they were all frightened and fell on the spot one by one. Isn't this the legendary Levi? How did he come to this place? Could it be that he is coming to this place to steal our territory? No, what should we do if our things are taken away by him? 224. Auntie's Legacy. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. The people below quickly discovered Levi's traces, and for them, Levi's existence also made them feel particularly depressed. It is precisely because of this that their eyes fell on Levi, and they always seemed very nervous because they didn't know exactly what Levi was going to do. But it seemed that at this time, Levi had slowly descended from the sky, and then landed steadily on the ground, his eyes falling on the people around him. Advertisement. With a smile on his lips, he looked at the panicked people in front of him, and then he asked slowly, "Do you think you all respect me so much? You immediately panicked when you saw me. Like this." Levi talked about this place, and there was clearly a bit of ridicule in his words. At the same time, among the crowd on the opposite side, after hearing what Levi said, those few people were also here. I was stunned for a moment. Some of them didn't know what Levi was going to do, but some of them walked out first. After seeing the figure in front of him, Levi immediately recognized his identity, because the figure in front of him was a very tall man who looked very strong and had crisp short hair. And more importantly, he was wearing a thick scarf around his neck. The scarf had many long velvets on it, covering his entire body. Advertisement. It was precisely because of this that during the following period, Levi's eyes fell on him, and he couldn't help laughing. Levi immediately recognized his identity. The figure in front of him was Auntie's second son, named Monkey Long. Monkey D. Long walked out of the crowd and his eyes fell on Levi. His eyes flashed with a cold light, and then Levi asked coldly, "What are you planning to do?" Quote. After hearing this, Levi was not afraid at all. He immediately raised his head and met Monkey Long's eyes. Although Monkey Long was much taller than Levi, but Levi is not afraid of Monkey Dragon at all. It is precisely because of this that during the next period of time, Levi said unhurriedly, "Of course I have my purpose in coming here, and the main purpose of coming here is to ask questions about what happened back then. Where are the legacies left behind by Auntie?" Advertisement. After hearing this, everyone present was stunned for a moment. Their eyes fell on Levi, and they clearly became wary. Because after hearing what Levi said, they naturally became extremely nervous at this time. Could it be that Levi wanted to enhance these legacies with them? If Levi came to snatch these things from them, no matter from any angle, they seemed to have no chance of winning, but how could they willingly protect and hand over these things that originally belonged to them? Not to mention giving it to Levi, even if it was given to their own brothers and sisters, everyone present was reluctant. Sure enough, after hearing Levi's question, Katakuri immediately frowned. "This is our housework, what do I think it has to do with you?" 225. Katakuri's attitude. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. When Katakuri said this, it could be seen from the expression on his face that his whole mood was very strange now. In fact, he felt very strange in his heart, because until now, he still couldn't figure out why Levi made such a decision and why he suddenly came to this place. After all, this is their territory, but before that, although Auntie became Levi's subordinate, or more accurately, like a puppet, at that time, the Mahjong did not follow him along with his subordinates. With Levi, that is to say, the division between them has actually been very clear. And not long ago, Auntie followed Levi to the world government to participate in that war. For everyone, this war was a war that could overturn the structure of the entire world, and in this war behind the scenes, for everyone, such a thing is enough to make them feel particularly shocked. Advertisement. But even though Levi is still alive, there is no doubt that Big Mom has definitely died in that war, because the last scene of that war has been seen by the whole world. Many people are secretly speculating on what the huge fireball that fell from the sky was in the end. Under such circumstances, for many people, their mood is naturally very strange. But no matter what, at least that incident is over, and everyone still has to live a good life. It is precisely because of this that Cake Island appears. Now everyone is scrambling to get the inheritance left by Auntie. Advertisement. There is nothing wrong with the fact that things have come to this point, but under such circumstances, for many people, their mood seems very strange. Not long ago, Levi publicly published the news in the newspaper that he wanted to meet Monkey D. Dragon, and whether he and Monkey D. Dragon have met, there has been no news so far, but Monkey D. The movements of Long and his revolutionary army in recent days seem a bit strange. First of all, more and more organizations around the world have taken the initiative to say that they have become Monkey D. Dragon's subordinates. Although Monkey D. Dragon has not come forward to admit this, judging from what is happening so far, should be inseparable already. In addition to this incident, Monkey Long is still taking actions, and every step of his actions looks very shocking. Advertisement. Such methods naturally make more and more people feel nervous. For them, if this matter continues to develop like this, it will definitely make all of them feel a little panicked. When things have developed to this point, there is actually no big problem in itself, but behind this incident, many people still admire Lian Ho. Now it can be exaggerated to say that the entire world has fallen into a new time period, and this time period is full of huge shocks. Everyone can see this. What's more important is the figure standing in the center of this storm Uzumaki. It is a mountain that no one will look up to. 226. I had no choice before. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Levi stands at the center of Uzumaki, and he is the leader who determines the final direction of this war. No matter what attitude Levi finally expresses, it will easily affect the global situation. The previous contact between Levi and Monkey Dragon has made many people keenly aware of it. Levi, there may be some connection between him and Monkey Long. But the matter has not settled in the end, the situation has not stabilized yet, and more importantly, will Li Wei himself let go of everything so lightly? Advertisement. The situation of world government used to be very exaggerated, and it could be said that it ruled the entire world. But under such circumstances, now they are like a dream, all disappearing overnight. But Levi, as the person who single-handedly brought about this situation, didn't he think in his heart that he wanted to be the leader of the world? Taking the position of world government is now just a piece of cake for him. Under such circumstances, Levi suddenly appeared in this place, and Katakuri couldn't help but start to guess in his heart, what is the reason why he came here? Could it be that he was thinking about it in his heart? Is it actually about accepting the ant's territory? Katakuri kept guessing in his heart, but what was more important than this now was that he first had to safeguard his own interests on the one hand, and on the other hand he also had to ensure his own safety. After all, it was impossible for him to stand on an equal footing with Levi. After all, if this was the case, wouldn't it mean that he was provoking Levi's authority, which he knew very well? Advertisement. However, judging from the character and methods Levi has shown before, he does not seem to be an unreasonable person. If he is like this, it means that there is still room for negotiation with Levi. After a series of pondering in his heart, he raised his head again, and then said to Levi calmly, I know you can kill me easily, but now I have a bargaining chip to negotiate terms with you. Katakori's sudden words made Levi stunned for a moment, and he became a little weird for a moment, because what he was thinking about in his heart was to come to this place to take away the red historical text. As for other things, he didn't care. He himself has never thought about ruling the world, because for him this is a benefit, but it is also a responsibility. He doesn't have anyone reliable around him, so if he does this, he will only add a lot of things to do for no reason, and if he doesn't do it well, it will inevitably cause the world to fall into chaos. Advertisement. So under such circumstances, Levi naturally felt very puzzled. He never expected that Katakori would suddenly pop up and say such a sentence to him, but he quickly understood what Katakori meant. It seemed that Katakori was worried about his attitude. But Levi didn't take this matter to heart, he just smiled lightly. Oh, then what leverage do you have to sit here and talk on equal terms with me? Woolen cloth. All of us have occupied Big Mom's legacy and his original territory, and we can destroy these things at any time now. 227. Big Mom Pirates Surrender. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Katakori's words made Levi stunned for a moment, but it was not only Levi who was also shocked, but also Katakori and his brothers and sisters. Katakori, what do you mean by this? Are you saying that you want to destroy the things Mom left behind with your own hands? They stared at Katakori closely one by one, but Katakori turned back coldly at this time, to the brothers and sisters behind him, and then asked again, if we can't protect if these things are good, then of course we are qualified to destroy these things, after all, these are things that belong to Mother, and we are Mother's children. Advertisement. What's more important is that if we start to become Levi's subordinates now, and we cannot get a peaceful relationship with him, then our future pain will definitely be more long-term. Katakori's words surprised Levi, and he couldn't help but praise Katakori a little more in his heart. Otherwise, among the entire Big Mom pirates, the person with the clearest head is Katakori. This person is very capable in terms of strength, brains, and everything else. What he was thinking was also very simple. Since they had to hand over some things now, of course they had to use these things in exchange for sufficient benefits. This was a transaction. Maybe giving them some status is just a piece of cake for Levi, or it just changes with his mood, but for the entire Big Mom pirates, this does determine their living conditions for a long time in the future. Advertisement. That is to say, under such circumstances, they must get enough benefits for themselves, otherwise they might as well destroy everything directly and die together under Levi's hands. After all, the long-term pain is not as good as the temporary pain. In Katakori's eyes, things like life and death can be used as a transaction, and this attitude certainly makes Levi unable to help but also have some interest in Katakori in his heart. Got up. But for Levi, this kind of thing itself is not a big problem, and no matter what decision Katakori makes, it doesn't matter to Levi. The things Levi can think of now are also very simple. Please give me flowers. As long as he can get the red history essay, Levi doesn't care about other things at all, but with Katakori caring so much, Levi thought about it and gave an answer. Advertisement. Since you were originally the rulers of these countries, you might as well continue to rule this place from now on. As for the rule of this place, I can guarantee that your status will never be shaken, but the premise is that you must not do any bad things to the residents living in this place. In this land, neither exploitation nor oppression is allowed to exist. However, I can allow you to obtain some benefits from other people. Of course, it should be through legitimate means such as tax collection. Although I haven't thought about the pattern of the entire world yet and how it should be decided in the end, even if the pattern of the world changes again in the future, it will only affect you and not the ruler of this land. When Levi said this, everyone present was stunned for a moment, and at the same time Katakori also started laughing. 228. Counting belongings. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. The conditions you mentioned are indeed very tempting, and if they are so, then I can agree to your request. When Katakori said this, he also laughed. Actually, it wasn't that we wanted to be bad guys in the past, it was because many of the things Mom needed were not willingly handed over by those people. But now everything we need can actually be obtained through normal means. In this case, there is no need for us to gain benefits by squeezing and exploiting others. Katakori sounded like he was expressing his attitude to Levi. It was as if he had no choice before and now he just wants to be a good person. Advertisement. But Levi doesn't care about this. Now that Katakori has agreed to Levi's request, of course Levi has made a decision quickly and will take over Katakori and everyone in the cake. In addition, Levi also specially contacted Monkey Long, so that Monkey Long could start to connect with Katakori here, and more importantly, Levi's appearance also made the whole cake peaceful. A lot. Although he didn't do anything too much from beginning to end, Katakori and their brothers and sisters were constantly trying to gain more benefits and gain more territory. Dispute. None of them are that weak, so once they start fighting and get serious, it will definitely be a war, but don't forget that there are still many ordinary people living here. Advertisement. For these ordinary people, if a war breaks out between Katakori and the others, it will be like a fight between gods, but they will only be the brats who suffer. That is to say, under such circumstances, they were naturally very nervous, but with the appearance of Levi, there was of course no need for these people to continue arguing. Levi perfectly assigned them different territories that belong to each of them, and in these territories, each of them must operate well. So at this moment, Levi's status in the hearts of these different people has improved a lot again. Before Levi left, many people had already decided in their hearts that Levi must follow Levi from now on. Of course, Levi didn't think about these things, nor did he think about it. Advertisement. After successfully turning Katakuri into his subordinate, Levi began to take stock of the things Big Mom left behind. It must be said that the Big Mom pirates, who once became one of the 4 emperors, still have a very rich family fortune. A large amount of gold and silver treasures and many rare things are almost everywhere here, but among these things, Levi finally found the one thing he needed, which was the red historical text. At the same time, Robin also set his sights on the big rock at this 5.4 time. The next task they have to do is to successfully translate the content above. At the same time, Robin looked at the red stone expectantly. The last time he saw the content on the stone, he was shocked, so of course he couldn't wait this time. 229. Contents of historical text. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Robin's eyes fell on the big stone. After he looked at the content on the big stone, he showed a shocked expression after a while, which also made Levi become a little confused. Robin, who was looking up and down, then asked slowly, "What is written on this stone?" Advertisement. On the other side, Robin seemed to have been hit hard, so he became a little excited at this time, and his breathing became very rapid. After a while, he finally calmed down. Actually, there is nothing. It just records the follow-up content of the previous historical text. As Robin said 21, his eyes fell on the red historical text, and he kept reading the content carefully. Of course, Levi knew that Robin was reading what was above, so he did not disturb him. Time passed little by little, and in the next period of time, Robin followed closely and finally read almost the above content. Following him, he finally lowered his head again, and at the same time, Levi looked at him with the same curiosity. Advertisement. Although he didn't speak, Robin certainly understood that Levi just wanted to ask him about the content recorded on the big stone. Under such circumstances, Robin recited all the content above in a natural and spontaneous manner, while Levi also listened quietly and carefully at this time. It's just that there is nothing special about the rest of the content. It is just a rough description of what Joey Boy experienced in the subsequent period. Most of it belongs to Joey Boy himself. Self-introduction. Or to be more precise, this is just Joey Boy telling everyone a story, but there is something special in the last part of the story, which is part of the content left by Roger, the Pirate King back then. But his content is actually very simple. He just wants to tell others that he has seen this stone. Advertisement. So behind this incident, at first glance, there was nothing special about Teacher Shu. After reading all the content, Levi naturally frowned. Layli once told Levi before that this stone represents how to enter the last island, but if you only read these words, it has no effect no matter how you look at it, which naturally makes Levi feel 597 has some doubts. Moreover, what Rayleigh said before was very certain. All 4 stones must be designed before the final content can be determined. And under such circumstances, he naturally felt some confuse. At this time, Robin also circled around the red historical text. His eyes fell on the red historical text, and then he showed a puzzled expression. Under such circumstances, he suddenly raised his head and said seriously to Levi, "I always feel that there seems to be something wrong behind the stone." 230. Hidden things. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. After hearing this, Levi was stunned for a moment, and then quickly asked, "Of course this stone is not ordinary, but is there anything wrong with it?" "I didn't see it. This is a red stone. Such a stone is very rare, so at first glance, the feeling of following such a stone is different." So in this case, Levi certainly wanted to I don't know what kind of mystery is hidden above at this time. But no matter how you look at it, there is nothing special about this stone. This is what Levi is most confused about so far. But at this moment, Robin on the side pointed at the bottom of the stone, and finally he explained to Levi. Advertisement. Actually, I'm just a guess and I'm not sure, but I suspect there is some strange content hidden under this stone, because at first glance, I always feel that the edge of this stone seems not neat. 17. When Robin said this, Levi was also slightly startled. His eyes fell on Robin's finger, and he saw an edge of the red historical text in it, Jing. There were 2 more gaps in the mail one after another. But there is obviously something abnormal about this, because the stone itself of historical texts is very hard, and Levi is absolutely certain of this. Advertisement. Although Levi has not tried to destroy these stones, one thing that is certain is that these stones are at least 800 years old. The traces of these stones left by Joey Boy back then it was given to everyone, and all the contents on it were carved. After so many years, it is still edge-shaped, giving people a square and square feeling. Since the places exposed to the outside are all square, it is unlikely that other places on these stones will be worn, even though this is the part close to the ground. But under such circumstances, at first glance, this piece of ware seemed to have been knocked on the ground, so Levi had such doubts in his heart, but at the same time Robin gave more information. Analyze. Although I'm not sure whether this piece of stone may have suffered some wear and tear after being collided elsewhere, I have a guess that these gaps are not wear and tear as we imagined. It is very likely that they are just wear and tear. There's something carved under here. Advertisement. Quote. Because you see, if it is such a stone, and a gap is created due to some collision, then at least some similar gaps will be produced in other places, but this is the only one of the four sides here. There is such a gap in the top, so it is very likely that something was carved below, and then diffused from here. Come on. Robin's words moved Yi Hao's heart, and he immediately had a strange feeling. If Robin's guess was true, then his previous doubts would also be resolved at this time. Thinking of this, he also quickened his pace and came to the huge red historical text, and then put his hand on the big stone. It was at this time that his palm finally stabilized. 231. Hidden Mystery. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. The next lesson was in the midst of Robin's shocked eyes. Levi's palm exerted force, and then the huge stone shook violently. This stone had not been moved for thousands of years. At this moment it started to shake. You can clearly see that the muscles on Levi's arms are bulging one after another, and at the same time, the strength in Levi's hands becomes more powerful, and he actually lifts the stone and lifts out a piece of stone. Gap. This stone was placed in an empty room. There was nothing else in the room, and the surrounding ground was very flat. Obviously, the ant was very important to these things when she was still there. Under such a premise, for Levi, since there is nothing around the stone, he can just overturn the stone. Thinking of this, he no longer has any worries in his heart, so he hands the power became stronger again. Advertisement. It can be said that it is no exaggeration to say that the weight of this stone is at least several thousand tons. However, with the strength of Levi's hand, he was able to lift this stone abruptly. After the stone rolled on the ground, it hit the ground heavily, making a roaring sound. CBCD, it sounded very scary, and even the ground shook. From here, you can tell how exaggerated the weight of this stone is, and under such circumstances, everyone present was naturally frightened and turned pale. From the expressions on their faces, it can be seen how terrifying the weight of these stones is now, and at this moment, someone suddenly ran over outside the door. Advertisement. What happened here? Did you run into any trouble? After Katakuri walked in from the door, his eyes fell on the people in the room, and a strange expression appeared on his face. Under such circumstances, he naturally felt very confused. But after Levi heard this, he just smiled very calmly, and then explained it to Katakuri. I think Katakuri must have heard it, because the red historical text just fell to the ground. I was startled by the sound, so I hurried over. Don't worry, we were just counting some things here, and then accidentally dropped the thing when we gave it to the reaction, that's why there was such a movement. 17. Advertisement. Levi explained it seriously, and at the same time, Katakuri also showed a puzzled expression. Apparently he didn't understand what Levi said. After all, what Levi said sounded strange. It gives people a strange feeling. You must know that the movement just now sounded like the house collapsed in an instant, and in this case Levi was saying that something was stirred by him. That is to say, under such circumstances, Katakuri certainly had some doubts about what was going on behind this matter. But since Levi had said so, could he continue to ask questions? So he had no choice but to nod and retreat, and then close the door. 232. Scrambled text. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. It was under such circumstances that his eyes fell on the room. Of course it was Levi, but he subconsciously blocked his sight to prevent him from seeing more things. Thinking of this, Katakuri's heart was of course it's also very clear. If nothing unexpected happens, Levi should have discovered some kind of treasure in this place, and these treasures are very precious. He doesn't want others to know, but even if Katakuri can guess it, he doesn't know anything else. Method. After all, Levi's strength lies there, so as long as Ichigo wants to get these treasures, even if he tells him to let him know, he will not have the courage to come to Izuru to trouble him, not to mention that Levi can't even drive at high speeds now. Willing. Compared with this, the best way for him now is to pretend to know nothing. Anyway, since Levi has guaranteed that they will be able to obtain these things in the future, of course he has nothing to say. Advertisement. Time passed little by little, and Levi's eyes fell on the red historical text again, and then he swallowed. Because he looked forward at this time, and immediately saw this piece of historical text. After the part that was pressed to the ground just now, his pupils suddenly contracted. The thing was exactly as he had guessed. The reason why there was a gap in the steel on the ground was not the so-called damage at all, but because there was a sea map carved under the red historical text. From this chart, you can also see some small arrows, all of which point in one direction. At a glance, these arrows all point to the same corner, and there seems to be a series of words carved in this corner. Advertisement. Levi looked at the words and then followed closely. First he was stunned for a moment, and then he showed a confused expression. But after all, he didn't recognize these words, so for Levi, this matter was relatively normal. Under such circumstances, Levi quickly remembered that there was an archaeologist beside him. Of course, this archaeologist could come into play at this time for Levi. At the same time, Robin naturally walked forward quickly, followed unhurriedly and laid his eyes on the map. Please give me flowers. Well, time passed little by little. In the next period of time, Robin followed closely and stared at the series of characters carefully for a long time, but when he came back to his senses, he showed a confused expression. Advertisement. Although these are indeed some ancient characters, these ancient characters cannot be translated because I can't understand what inner lips they are trying to express. After hearing this, Levi was stunned for a moment. He suddenly remembered something about this red historical text, and suddenly he patted his head and seemed to vaguely understand something. Do you think it's because these red historical texts record very important content, but these contents are, for example, a paragraph of text, and then they are all separated? What Levi means is very simple. It is nothing more than a paragraph of text being scrambled and then randomly leaving a few words on each stone. If that is the case, that's not easy to understand. 233. Divide territory. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. After some speculation, everyone quickly thought that what Levi said was not impossible. If this is really the case, then maybe they have already found it. How can I know about the so-called raftel? Where you are? But under such circumstances, they suddenly thought of more content, that is, they had seen a red historical text, 600, before, so on that historical text there was what if there is no similar content? Advertisement. Thinking of this, Levi's mood naturally became excited. Many people were in this situation. Naturally, he and Robin immediately glanced at each other, and then saw what they were thinking in each other's eyes. It is also under such circumstances that for Levi, his whole mood has become very excited now, because if his guess is true, then in the next period of time, they may really will be able to find a solution to the problem. But no matter how this matter is resolved, for Levi, in the next period of time, he still has an idea in his heart, that is, to return to Zoe immediately. But before that, he had to wait for a while, and then let Robin record all the contents on the red historical text block. Time passed little by little. In the next period of time, the expression on Levi's face naturally became much calmer. For Levi, in the next period of time, he had nothing to think about. How many? Advertisement. Under such circumstances, Levi reacted quickly. On the other hand, Robin is still in Beijing, writing down all the contents above. At the same time, Levi will also leave the room again, but before that, he must first resolve all the matters on Cake Island. Of course Robin also understands what Levi means, and in this case, in addition to the words, what is more important to Robin is the navigation chart. How much content is recorded on this navigation chart? He himself not sure. But of course he had to draw all the parts of these nautical charts the same way, bit by bit, so this was a very long project. It will take at least several days. Advertisement. On the other side, Levi followed closely and found Katakuri, and then asked Katakuri to call everyone on the Cake Island. Levi's purpose for doing this next was naturally burning. We need to resolve everything here. Although Levi didn't say what he was going to do next when he called those people over, who on the entire Cake Island wouldn't know clearly. When Levi came here before, he had already sworn that he was going to in the next period of time, I will control the entire cake of 4.2. So under such circumstances, of course they became a little nervous. After all, no one knew what would be done to them in the future. No matter what was going on in his mind here, Levi was quickly prepared on the other side. That is to say, under such circumstances Levi naturally became excited. 234. Be convinced orally. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. All the people on the entire Cake Island who originally belonged to the Big Mom Pirates were brought over by Katakuri, so they are all gathered together now, and Levi is now sitting on the throne. It's not because Levi wants to sit on this throne or for any other reason, but because for Levi, what he needs to show his attitude now, and he is sitting on this throne, is to tell other people, I'll be honest with yourself. 21. Sure enough, everyone below looked at Levi nervously, and under such circumstances, Levi also looked towards them. For Levi, what will happen in the next period of time is naturally enough to make everyone present become extra vigilant at this time. Seeing everyone in No. 46 middle school nervous, Levi couldn't help laughing at this moment, and then he waved his hands to everyone present and said, You don't have to be nervous, I'm here now. In this place, what I want to tell you is actually very simple. Advertisement. First of all, give me all the territory on your Cake Island. Levi said in a very calm tone. Although this tone did not sound aggressive, it still carried an unquestionable firmness. In other words, since he said this, everyone must listen to him. Do as he wishes. So after listening to what was said, the people present nodded quickly, and then they took out all the maps on Cake Island just as Levi said. It was under such circumstances that Levi Test unhurriedly set his sights on Katakuri. Advertisement. First of all, you are the eldest of the entire family, which means you are now the highest among them. Then I will make you the king here. Do you think there is a problem? That is to say, from now on, all the places on the sandbox in front of me belong to your chassis. When Levi said this, everyone present was stunned for a moment. The first was of course Katakuri. He himself did not expect that Levi would say such a thing, because he had thought that everyone should have a piece of territory, but when Levi came up like this just give him all the space. Naturally, other people were also a little dissatisfied. They all frowned because they were all struggling with what they should do next, but Levi wanted to give all the places to Kotaku. Lee and the others seemed to have no ability to refute. Advertisement. But if they don't refute, do they really give all these things to Katakuri, 397 and then they don't want anything? But just when they were still very nervous, they suddenly laughed leisurely and said to the others present, Don't worry, I will definitely not do this kind of favoritism thing, because you have nothing to do with me. Katakuri's identity is the king. He is responsible for ruling all the places on your cake island, but each island needs 10 administrators. The administrator's responsibility is to specifically manage the affairs of each island, and you are directly responsible for Kata. 235. Redistricting. Better Cake Island. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Levi's tone was very serious, which made everyone present listen. After finishing, everyone was stunned for a moment. Under such circumstances, their eyes fell on Levi, and they were obviously a little confused, but they quickly understood what Levi meant. Advertisement. Although it is said that from now on the whole battalion of cake makers belong to Katakuri, Katakuri is equally responsible for all of them, so to be more precise, Katakuri can only be with them, it's just one layer above the head. But this will not affect their interests, so thinking of this, they have already breathed a sigh of relief in the hearts of many people present. It is precisely because of this that many people present were dissatisfied just now, but now they no longer have such emotions. They soon became calm again, and Levi's eyes fell on everyone. Since you all have nothing to do, I will leave all the things here to you for the time being. I hope that next time I come here again, I can see everyone on the whole cake island. Prosperous. Advertisement. Levi said to everyone present with a serious face. Although everyone present was stunned for a moment after hearing what Levi said, they all nodded quickly. After all, they also knew that what Levi said was very serious. Seriously. Under such circumstances, to everyone present, although what Levi said gave people a strange feeling, they did not have any ability to refute it. Compared with this, they quickly reacted at this time. If they don't resolve the matter here quickly in the next period of time, then they will definitely have to face more life in the next period of time. After seeing these people agreeing to his request so quickly, he laughed disdainfully, and then said coldly to everyone present, "What I said is not just casual talk, nor is it just to let others know. You guys have a great time. You all listen to me clearly. What I mean is to make everyone on the cake island, even ordinary people, look happy and make them feel that there is a goal in life. Only in this way can everyone it's a better day." Advertisement. Levi said this, and everyone present was stunned for a moment after hearing what Levi said, but they quickly reacted, so naturally they could only nod obediently in the next period of time. Although Levi's words forced them to hand over part of their profits to the civilians, compared to leaving nothing behind, perhaps this was a good choice, so of course they did not dare to do so at this time. Not satisfied anymore. And under such circumstances, Hao Jiao, after hearing what Levi said. Although Katakuri on the side still felt a little confused, he also vaguely understood what Levi meant, so when he looked at Levi at this time, there was something strange in his eyes. Before this, he had known Izuru, but he had not had any contact with Levi. In fact, anyone who has come into contact with Levi will agree that Levi is a very good person. 236. Future plans. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. He had heard of such things before, but in his opinion at the time, this was just a means to win over people's hearts in the future. But now, judging from the period of contact between Levi and him, many times what is shown in the future is actually just the true thoughts in his heart. From here, it can be seen that Levi is actually much better than they thought. It was at this time that his view of Levi changed slightly. In the past, everything they did was to make the mountain above them happy. Advertisement. Auntie is like a 330 devil in their eyes, making each of them breathless. Only by making him happy can they become happier. And under such circumstances, in order to make each of them happier, their moods will naturally become inexplicably anxious. It is precisely because of this that in the next period of time, they have to do what the ant said, but in fact, they really don't know if they really want to do this in their hearts, because they have never thought of it that way. From the time they were born until now, they have been doing this, but in fact, they have never even thought about what they want to do. Maybe they don't want to do it, but they have no choice. Advertisement. But now after what Levi said, they suddenly felt that if they really did what Levi said, it would be a very good thing. Thinking of this, their mood naturally changed. It is precisely because of this that in the next period of time, no matter how complicated their mood is, they have no other choice now. Time passes little by little, and everything that happens now makes them feel very weird, and under such circumstances, they have changed something quietly. My other opinions. But of course they didn't say what they were thinking in their hearts. Now Levi's eyes were on them, and he couldn't help but smile. Advertisement. In this case, I hope you can do better in the future. Of course, if you can really manage this place well, then you will definitely be able to gain more territory under my rule in the future. As the saying goes, it doesn't matter whether the cat is black or white, as long as it can catch mice, it is a good cat, so Levi doesn't mind that these people will take things that belong to other people from others and turn them into their own interests. And there is no way to change such a thing at any time, so under such circumstances, Levi is naturally too lazy to take care of it. As long as it can make them more normal, most people of the same age in this world, for most people, their mission has been accomplished. Because of this, Levi naturally did not continue to discuss this topic. He just nodded and then handed over the matter to the rest of the people. 237. Ambiguity with Robin. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. But of course Levi also knows that although these people have decided to change their minds, there are still many things they have accumulated over the years that are not easy for you to change. Under such circumstances, for Levi, he naturally had to find some other people to supervise. These people had once fought under the pirates, and these people were not weak in strength, and one they are very proud, so not everyone can keep an eye on them. But for Levi, this is not a problem, because it is not difficult to find the original instructions. Levi quickly contacted Monkey D. Dragon and asked Monkey D. Dragon to lead his men. Come down to this place. Advertisement. Under such circumstances, Monkey D. Dragon has naturally moved closer, and in the next period of time, his mission is to tell the remaining members of the Big Mom Pirates what to do next. What should they do? On the other side, Robin's task was almost completed very quickly. In order to figure out what was hidden on that map, Robin carefully read the entire historical text from top to bottom, once. But no matter how you look at this information, it doesn't seem to be of much use. Some of it is the clues left by Raftel and Roger. The other part is the map, but the text in the corner of the map seems to be a series of scrambled text. Even if you can extract some clues from the scrambled text, you cannot extract it. Well, it was under such circumstances that Robin naturally felt a headache, and looking at Robin's appearance, Levi couldn't help but laugh. Advertisement. Okay, I know these things are very difficult, but you don't have to worry, because these things themselves are not very urgent. In fact, Levi is not anxious about these contents, because Zoe has been completely solved by himself before. Under such circumstances, although he is still worried about Zuowu's true form, it is very likely that one day he will suddenly come to this place to cause trouble for himself, but he has returned to several places in these days, so after a series of after signing in, his strength improved to another level. Please give me flowers 0. The last time I faced Zuowu, I regretted that because of my negligence, I almost fell into a desperate situation. This also meant that Zuowu at that time had the strength and qualifications to compete head-on with Levi. Advertisement. Point 0. But if he had to do it again, it would definitely become much easier for him. It is precisely because of this that Levi is not in a hurry, and during the period of time with Robin, Levi gradually became more appreciative of Robin. This is a very pure person. It seems that for him, the meaning of his life is for archaeology, which means that as long as he can do these things, he will be deeply involved in it. It is precisely because of this that when Robin on the other side was studying the content of the history essay, Levi couldn't help but stay aside and watch him quietly, but Robin suddenly noticed this. 238. Sabo arrives. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Only then did Robin notice Levi's eyes following him, and naturally he became a little confused. He turned his head and looked at it with a blank expression, not knowing what he wanted to express next. What are you looking at? Is there something on my face? He touched his face nervously, and then asked subconsciously in confusion. But after Levi heard this, he didn't feel embarrassed at all. Instead, he was very shameless, smiled. It's nothing, I just think you are very beautiful, so I want to see you more. Advertisement. When Robin heard this, he blushed for a while, but he quickly forced himself to calm down, and then said to Levi with a serious face, the content here is really too complicated. So far, I am still not sure what is described here, but it is not important, because I think we only need to find the chart below. I think so too, because I think this map points to the final location of Raftel. As long as we can find Raftel, we will be able to determine that the remaining clues can cure more things. In fact, there is not much for us. Meaning. Levi said this. In fact, up to now, he has not told Robin why he went to Raftel, but this is not important to Robin, because he is an archaeologist. Under such circumstances, he was already very happy that he could come into contact with many ancient things with Levi. Now for him, it would be the best if this matter could be solved. Advertisement. Time passed little by little, and in the next period of time, it naturally became much calmer quickly. On the other side, while Robin was still sorting out the notes he had recorded, Levi was naturally looking at him quietly. The atmosphere in the room seemed a little warm, but at this moment, outside the door, but there was a series of rapid footsteps. Immediately after this, Levi suddenly heard someone calling his name outside the door, which made him feel a little irritated. After all, he was getting along with Robin now, but someone actually called him. Of course he still wanted to take a look at his name, so Levi walked towards the door at this time. But when he opened the door and looked outside, he realized that the person standing outside the door was actually Sabo. Levi was stunned for a moment when he saw Sabo appearing in this place, but he didn't. Very surprised. Advertisement. Well, because Sabo is Monkey D. Dragon's subordinate, and Monkey D. Dragon has received news from him before, and Levi asked Monkey D. Dragon to come here. 3.0 After meeting Sabo, Levi immediately understood that if nothing else happened, Monkey D. Dragon should have arrived. It's just that even if Sabo comes to this place, he's here as soon as he comes. Does it mean that he still has to report to himself? This fact makes Levi a little confused. But after seeing Levi on the other side, Sabo breathed a sigh of relief. 239. Golden Lion is still alive. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. It turns out that you are here and I can see you. Looking at Sabo's hurried look, Levi certainly felt a little confused, and then he asked in confusion, did you come to me for something? If you have something, then just follow me. Let's talk about it. That's right. I can't explain the specific situation clearly to you at the moment, but you should understand it after reading this newspaper. Advertisement. As Sabo spoke, he handed a newspaper to Levi. Levi, After reading the contents of the newspaper clearly, was stunned for a moment, because this newspaper was this morning's newspaper. Levi also opened the newspaper at this time and took a closer look at the content, but immediately after 21, he was stunned on the spot, because the cover of the newspaper had a ruins in the center. Although it is not clear where this ruin is, there is a figure floating in that place above the ruins. The figure looks to be quite old, and he has no legs and his 2 legs are actually 2 swords. At this moment, Levi's pupils suddenly tightened, because after he saw this figure, Levi immediately recognized his identity. Yes, if nothing else happened, this figure should be Golden Lion, and before Golden Lion it has been conquered by Levi. Or to be more precise, Levi has destroyed the soul of the Golden Lion. Advertisement. And the Golden Lion only has one body, and his soul has already flown to nowhere. But under such circumstances, Golden Lion followed him to cause trouble at the headquarters of world government. At that time, the ancient weapons dispatched by world government suddenly broke out, and it was during that war that all of Levi's men were wiped out. Logically speaking, the Golden Lion should have been eliminated as well. But now the Golden Lion has appeared in the news again, which of course makes Levi feel confused. But compared to this, Levi still saw a lot of written reports around him, so Levi reacted quickly at this time. Since there are written reports around here, he might be able to gain some information from the words. At this time, Levi's eyes fell on these words. Advertisement. But when Levi saw the content of these words clearly, he couldn't help but be stunned for a moment, because in these words, Levi got a piece of news that he didn't even expect. That is, what these words describe is that the Golden Lion has not reappeared in recent days and has been wreaking havoc. Behind this 590 incident, Levi was naturally shocked. But no one knows why Chihong would cause destruction in this place, and Chihong has even disappeared long ago. He once appeared next to Levi before, but after that world war, he also disappeared again. Once disappeared. It is precisely because of this that many people began to secretly speculate whether the Golden Lion was secretly commanded by Levi to do such bad things. Otherwise, why would Chihong suddenly do some very extreme things? Woolen cloth. After seeing these speculations, Levi felt like crying. 240. Set off to find the Golden Lion. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. In fact, if nothing unexpected happened, then Golden Lion should definitely not have died, otherwise he would not have appeared in this place, but no one knew how Golden Lion survived. How he survived is not the most important thing. What Levi is more concerned about now is that if nothing else happened, he should have escaped death in that war, and followed closely. I found myself missing, so I kept trying to find traces of myself. But although such a thing does not sound strange, he has never been able to find himself, so he will naturally go crazy. Advertisement. Whether it was Golden Lion, Whitebeard, or Kaido, their souls had been destroyed before a previous war, but although the memories in their heads were gone, they were not fools. In order for them to understand his orders, Levi did not completely destroy their memories and wisdom. Under such circumstances, as time passes little by little, they will soon regain their own consciousness, but now if nothing else happens, their rituals should be the same as those of children. When 2 or 3-year-old children find out that their parents are missing, their first reaction is to cry and make a fuss. The current Chihong is also in the same situation. After he discovered that the most important person in his heart, Levi, disappeared when he was young, he would naturally make a big fuss, and then start to cause destruction around him, just hoping to find Levi. Advertisement. Thinking of this, Levi sighed helplessly, but then he suddenly had a strange idea in his heart. He had been confused about one thing before. If he wanted to go somewhere, he could only fly by himself. Although he had a pair of wings on his back, flying was not very tiring for him, but it was very troublesome. And more importantly, it would be okay if he was the only one around him, but if there was one more person, such as an extra Robin, it would actually be barely acceptable. After all, flying alone in the sky is very boring, but having a beautiful woman in your arms and being able to chat with yourself is of course a dream. But what if there are a few more people? It's very difficult for him. But don't forget that Golden Lion is very powerful in itself, and more importantly, Golden Lion, what is his ability? It can make anything fly in the sky. Advertisement. Maybe you can build yourself a palace, and then let this palace fly in the sky, so that you can travel back and forth anywhere in the world at will. Thinking of this, Levi suddenly felt a heartbeat. That is to say, under such circumstances, Levi immediately put away the newspaper, then raised his head, and met Sabo's eyes again. I understand. Do you know the exact coordinates of the Golden Lion now? I will go and capture it now. Quote. Levi said seriously, and at the same time, Sabo naturally nodded. It was under such circumstances that he naturally said nothing more. If this is really the case, that would be great. 241. Where the Golden Lion is located. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. After learning the information about the Golden Lion from Sabo, Levi naturally took Robin and left the Cake Island immediately. Now that Monkey D. Dragon has arrived, everything here can naturally be left to Monkey D. Dragon, and Levi believes that Monkey D. Dragon's strength and experience are definitely better than his own when it comes to managing this kind of thing. It is much more powerful, so leaving this matter to Monkey Long 4 and 5 is also a better choice. That is to say, Under such circumstances, for Levi, in the next period of time, Levi naturally took the two of them out of the Cake Island again, and then began to move towards the location of the Golden Lion provided by Sabo. Advertisement. It was another long flight of 533 along the way, and during this period of time, Robin also became more curious about Levi. Before that, Robin also became more curious about Levi. Although the two of them are always very close when flying in the sky. But at that time, neither of them had any feelings for each other, but this time Levi could clearly feel it, when Robin came into contact with him. It will appear a little restrained. Under such circumstances, Levi couldn't help but feel a little weird in his heart, because he naturally felt that something was wrong in his heart. CBFH. Advertisement. It is precisely because of this that in the next period of time, for Levi, his whole mood has naturally changed silently. It seems that he may be able to leave Robin in the future. By my side. But if you think about it carefully, it would definitely be a good thing if you always have such a beautiful woman by your side. It is precisely because of this that the relationship between Levi and Robin quickly became better. After making preparations before and after, time passed little by little. For Levi, in the next period of time, his heart was naturally not as nervous as before, but they were not forget about them, this time the purpose is to find. According to Sabo, the current location of the Golden Lion is in a small country surrounding the world government, and this country is surrounded by various villages, and in such a place, Levi has already arrived here. Well, of course he wants to find the Golden Lion first. Advertisement. After arriving around a small village, Levi followed closely, and stopped at this place, glanced around, and then said silently, before. The place Sabo mentioned should be here, right? Golden Lion also nodded. I feel it smells pretty good, but until now, I'm not sure whether this is the place Sabo mentioned, but let's take a look around first. He mentioned this place, and at this moment, Levi suddenly heard a series of footsteps in the distance. Under such circumstances, Levi was stunned for a moment, and turned his head in the direction of the footsteps. Look. But after letting him see the direction clearly, he realized that there was a group of people running towards this direction. 242. Shocked passers-by. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. And more importantly, these colleagues who were running over looked very panicked, which naturally made Levi feel a little curious. Could it be that these people had encountered something terrible, which was in Levi's heart? While still feeling confused, those people had already arrived near Levi. Under such circumstances, Levi's eyes fell on them, tilted his head, and then felt a little confused, because these people seemed to be just ordinary people, but he didn't know why each of them now the expressions on their faces were very nervous. Seeing this scene, Levi was naturally a little dumbfounded, and he stopped in front of everyone. But at this moment, everyone in front of them saw this scene, and naturally they subconsciously wanted Levi to leave. Advertisement. Who are you? Get out of the way quickly. We have to pass from here. But how could Levi give them this opportunity? He stopped in front of these people. When they saw Levi blocking the road, they naturally felt a little angry. There was a very tall man in the crowd. Seeing that Levi was blocking their way here, he naturally became a little angry, so he rushed out from the crowd, holding a hand in his hand. A long wooden stick. You bastard, I told you to get out of here and you didn't understand, right? In that case, I'll let you see how powerful I am. As the big man Aming spoke, he waved the wooden stick in his hand and was about to hit Levi, but Levi really had no intention of taking action when he saw this scene, because Robin had already reacted beside Levi. Advertisement. The next moment, many palms sprouted out of the big man's body in an instant, and these palms grabbed the stick in the hand of the big man of life, and followed closely, before the big man had time to react. He was already pushed to the ground by these suddenly grown palms. At the same time, everyone else present was stunned for a moment when they saw this scene. They were all startled by the sudden change in front of them, and the big man was pinned to the ground, and then he was finally revealed. A look of horror. Please give me flowers. Who are you? Why are you here? I haven't provoked you before. Why are you doing this? In fact, after seeing these people running away, Levi could vaguely guess why they were running away. However, under such circumstances, Levi still wanted to make sure that his guess was not wrong, so he asked again. For a moment. Advertisement. 0. I'm curious why you are so nervous and want to run away now. The Golden Lion is behind us now. He is going to chase us soon, and it looks like he is going to kill us all. Even if you miss, don't drag us away. Get out of here. As the big man spoke, he pushed Levi away casually. He looked like he was about to run away, but how could Levi give him this chance? He snorted coldly. The next moment, an invisible air pressure enveloped everyone around him. On people. For a moment, everyone present felt that there was a huge mountain on their bodies. 8. 243. You don't have to be afraid. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. This invisible mountain is of course because Levi exerted some pressure on them just now. Of course, these pressures are actually very terrifying for most ordinary people, and maybe for some powerful people. It's nothing to the attackers, because Levi has used the smallest force possible to deal with them. But to these people in front of them, all of them, 190, are a group of ordinary people, even if there are a few strong people among them, they are just strong ordinary people, and such people Levi if you want to deal with them, you only need to blow a breath to turn them into powder. Advertisement. Under such terrifying pressure, of course their faces suddenly became very ugly. Even Robin could appear relatively calm when facing this pressure, but none of these people could move. They suddenly panicked and opened their mouths to speak, but found that under the influence of this pressure, they couldn't even open their mouths. At the same time, Levi started laughing when he saw their looks. Got up. Don't worry, everyone, you don't have to be so panicked. I just want to tell you that I came to this place to capture the Golden Lion. When Levi said this, he was not in a hurry to release the pressure because he knew that if he let go of the pressure, the people around him would immediately become very excited. Advertisement. And under such circumstances, there was suddenly a shadow in the distant sky that was approaching here at a very fast speed, and the speed of the shadow was so fast that it was invisible and invisible before Levi had time to react. He saw that the shadow had come in front of him. And under such circumstances, it took him just a moment to see clearly that shadow. His true face was correct. The shadow in the sky in front of him was none other than himself. The purpose of getting here is Golden Lion. The Golden Lion flew from the sky at an extremely fast speed. In just a split second, it was almost in front of everyone here, and behind him, there were large swaths of gravel following his body. Let's act together. That is to say, under such circumstances, when Levi saw the appearance of the Golden Lion, he would only snort coldly, and then he said a page of disdain, and a pair of huge wings grew out from behind him. Advertisement. At this moment, the group of people behind him saw this scene, but suddenly many people's pupils suddenly stopped, because after they saw this pair of black wings, they suddenly thought of something, but they didn't even think about it now. I was speechless, and naturally I couldn't cry out in surprise. At this time, Yu Hang had already arrived in the sky, and under such circumstances, Golden Lion did not expect that someone would dare to stop his actions at 1.9, so of course he felt very angry. The eyes are filled with pupil color. Immediately afterwards, he almost rushed towards Levi, and behind him, large swaths of gravel also hit Levi under his control. But who is Levi? How could he be attacked so easily? 244. Clean up the Golden Lion. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Seeing that the Golden Lion's attack was about to fall on him, Levi naturally responded immediately. At the beginning, he snorted coldly, and at the next moment, an invisible force fell from the sky. This force directly crushed the Golden Lion in front of him, and Zhang Zihao hit the ground directly from the sky. Under such circumstances, the Golden Lion was still struggling fiercely on the ground, but at the same time, the gravel in the sky that was originally going to fly towards Levi was also at this time, under Levi's control, it landed again where the Golden Lion was. Before the Golden Lion had time to react, it was already buried by the pile of rubble. Advertisement. Under such circumstances, Levi couldn't help but laugh when he saw this scene. At this time, Golden Lion was naturally struggling to get up again. His ability was to make anything float, and in this case, the stones on his body would certainly not have much impact on him. Big impact, he had already emerged from the rubble at this time. But it was at this time that Levi laughed disdainfully when he saw this scene, because to Levi, the Golden Lion was really just a trick, and there was no way to pose a threat to Levi. It is precisely because of this that in the next period of time, Levi came again, followed closely in front of the Golden Lion, slapped the Golden Lion on the face, and continued to curse. You bastard is still here. Don't wake me up. The power of his slap was particularly terrifying. It actually made the Golden Lion spin twice in the sky, and then stopped again. Then, in his eyes, the yellow light reappeared at this time. Disappear. Advertisement. It seemed that at this time he could see the figure in front of him clearly again, but when he was asked to see the young man clearly because it was Levi, he was obviously a little panicked. It is precisely because of this that Levi's eyes fell on him at this time. The scene in the Golden Lion mirror was obviously a little panicked. He struggled twice, please follow, and wanted to do something, but there was no one at all. Opportunity. Why don't you kneel down quickly? Levi pointed at the Golden Lion and cursed angrily at him. At the same time, after seeing Levi's actions, the Golden Lion's body naturally trembled violently, and he did not dare to continue flying in the sky. Suddenly, it stopped slowly from the sky, and then fell to the ground. In the shocked eyes of a group of ordinary villagers not far away, they actually saw the Golden Lion kneeling down in front of Levi, his body trembling. Advertisement. You bastard, how dare you do such a thing after not seeing me for the past few days? I think you really want to die. Levi talked about this place, and at the same time, Golden Lion naturally felt even more scared. Then he actually started crying in front of Levi, and this scene made Levi sigh helplessly. Tone. Back then, Golden Lion was one of the top strong men in the world, but his soul had been worn out by Levi, so now he is just an ordinary person. And under such circumstances, it seemed a bit too much to treat him like this. After all, his current intelligence is only equivalent to that of a child of a few years old. 245. Shocked villagers. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Golden Lion was kneeling on the ground at this time, with a nervous and excited look on his face. He looked as if he was very scared, but Levi knew very well that Golden Lion was not afraid. Or to be more precise, he was not so much scared as he was excited after seeing himself again. And the civilians not far away on the other side were naturally all excited after seeing this scene. Shocked. They never thought that this passerby who jumped out of nowhere would have such great ability. With just a few simple actions and 2 short sentences, Golden Lion fell to his knees. And more importantly, what the Golden Lion did to them before that could be described as extremely cruel. When they thought of this, the eyes they looked at Levi were naturally full of weirdness, but Levi didn't care about it. He raised his head again and looked at the people in front of him. Advertisement. Don't worry, everyone. I know what you are thinking right now, but since I am here, I will definitely not let Golden Lion die after doing such an outrageous thing. When he finished speaking, at this moment, someone suddenly came out of the crowd and his eyes fell on Levi. If I guessed correctly, you are the Levi who made a big fuss over the world government not long ago. I didn't expect to meet you here today. After hearing this, Levi naturally raised his head subconsciously and looked at the man, and then looked a little surprised. However, he quickly reflected on it, and under such circumstances, he naturally nodded and had no intention of refuting the people in front of him. Advertisement. I know that each of you is feeling very worried in your heart right now. But what I care about more than this now is what we are going to do in the next period of time. Don't worry, now that I have arrived at this place, I will definitely take the Golden Lion away. As Levi spoke, he was about to leave with the Golden Lion, but at this moment, many people in the crowd suddenly knelt on the ground, their eyes falling on Levi. Sir, please save us. After hearing this, Levi and Robin's colleagues were stunned for a moment. He was not sure what these people were going to do. After all, hadn't Levi already killed the Golden Lion? Advertisement. But at this moment, other people present immediately knelt down at the same time as if they had remembered something. Looking at them, the expressions on each of their faces are very nervous now, and more importantly, each of them is very excited now, which makes Levi feel a little stunned for a moment. In place. Quote. I have actually killed the Golden Lion, so is there anything else you need my help with next? Levi tilted his head and looked at the people in front of him. It seemed that some of them didn't quite understand the crisis they were encountering. Shouldn't it be about the Golden Lion? Now that the crisis has been resolved, do they still want him to help do something? This did make him feel a little confused. 246. Doing us a favor. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. But at this moment, someone in the crowd suddenly stood up, raised his head tightly, and his eyes fell on Levi. We know that you are the legendary Levi, and we also know that you are very powerful, so this time we dare to invite you to help us. Actually, each of us is very entangled in this matter. But since you are already here and have helped us once, I think it would be best if you could help us again. Hearing this, Levi 183 seemed to vaguely understand something. His brows twitched twice, and then he realized at this time that if nothing else happened, these people in front of him should have some other troubles. Advertisement. After thinking about this clearly, Levi also nodded. He turned his eyes to the people in front of him again, and then said to them calmly, I understand, you can choose. If you're not willing to help us, we're never going to get up. Those people were still kneeling on the spot, motionless, and when Levi heard this, he sighed helplessly, but you didn't even say anything about me wanting to help you. How can I help you? I'm not an omniscient god. Quote. Since you want to tell me the situation clearly, you'd better get up and speak so that you can speak more clearly. After hearing what Levi said, the other people present immediately stood up again, but even so, it could be seen from the expressions on their faces that their current emotions had not eased much. Advertisement. But just at this moment, an old man walked out from the crowd, and his eyes fell on Levi. Well, in that case, let me explain this matter clearly to you. Until now, we have not, figured out what is going on. Not long ago, the Golden Lion appeared around us, and he has been wreaking havoc. Naturally, we can only keep running away, and then we can try our best to escape from his clutches. Survive. But before that, we were actually very confused. The old man then told Levi a story. It turned out that not long ago, Levi and the people around him were still doing well and were already planning how to overthrow the world government. Advertisement. At that time, a woman suddenly came to their small village, and that woman was very strange, with a pair of horns growing on her head. Moreover, the woman was very beautiful, so she was molested after the first day in the village, but this in itself was a very common thing. After all, although there are many good people in this world, it does not mean that everyone is a good person, so in front of bad people, anything is possible. Moreover, that woman's strength was also very terrifying. Although she was teased for a while, she immediately beat up the person who teased him. So after things got here, they should be in a normal state, and many people in this village also stood up and began to condemn the gangster. 247. The girl in the village. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. However, things continued to change at this time. After the girl was molested in the village, she actually stayed in the village. And according to him, she was a down-and-out woman. Because his father was accidentally killed, he said he only able to wander outside alone. Most of the people in this world are kind-hearted people, so after the woman came to the village and told her miserable experience, the people in the village of course agreed to let her stay. This is a very common thing, and it is also a very heart-warming story. In such a big village, there are hundreds of families in the village. Even if a family has one meal, he can eat it for at least a year. So under such circumstances, many people do not feel that this matter is serious. Advertisement. Moreover, there are many abandoned houses in this village, so under such circumstances, the place where the woman lives does not need to be considered too much. Therefore, being able to adopt such a girl under such circumstances is a good idea. For many people, it is certainly something that makes them happy. The woman was also a very clear person. After she stayed in the village, she would often help each family with more important things. Many people in the village discovered that although this girl looked his body is delicate, but his strength is terrifying. In addition, he is a very meticulous person, so he can often help people in the village to do things quickly and well. In this case, the people in the village naturally feel more and more towards him. He likes it, and some people even keep confessing to him. But things suddenly changed one night. That night, the girl was sleeping at home and suddenly jumped out of her room. Advertisement. Immediately afterwards, he began to look for food everywhere in the village, and looking at him, it felt like he was crazy. They heard the girl keep shouting for food, so other people in the village thought that the girl was hungry after hearing this, and she was very lovable before, so people didn't think much about it. Please give me flowers. People all took out food from their homes to give to the girl, but no one expected that the girl went crazy after seeing the food. She pounced on it and threw the food away. It was all eaten up, and it wasn't enough. Advertisement. Although people did not carefully count how much the girl ate that night. But according to a rough estimate, it was at least equivalent to a month's worth of food for one family. Such a large amount fell into the belly of a girl, which naturally shocked everyone in the entire village. But things like this are still happening. People in the village can slowly discover that this girl will fall into a state of madness every once in a while, and will swallow a large amount of food immediately after going mad. Food. The girl's appetite also became more and more terrifying. Every time he was hungry, he would fall into a crazy state, but when he woke up, he actually couldn't even remember to eat. 248. Muscular girl. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Although the people in the village felt something strange about the girl, they couldn't say anything more, so they could only silently write down everything at this time and follow their thoughts. Of course they want to find a chance to say goodbye to this girl. He discriminated against the girl and gradually realized his changes, so every time he went crazy, he would feel guilty for a long time, but when he went crazy again, he still had nothing. No. What the old man actually meant was that he hoped that Levi could save the girl. After all, in their opinion, the girl's situation was already very miserable. He had encountered such a thing before. For him, it must be a painful memory that will last a lifetime. Under such circumstances, he still has to endure such torture, which is undesirable for anyone. Advertisement. After hearing this, Levi became a little surprised. His eyes fell on everyone, and it seemed that the people in front of him were not lying. However, Levi began to guess in his mind the identity of this girl. Listening to the old man's description of the girl with a pair of horns on her head, she was definitely not an ordinary person. But you don't even need to judge from this point that the girl is definitely not an ordinary person. After all, no normal girl can eat as much food as someone else can eat for a month in one sitting. It is precisely because of this that Levi, of course, also developed a strong interest in this girl, and he now wants to meet this girl. So under such circumstances, his eyes fell on everyone. After thinking for a while, he raised his head again and said to the people in front of him, "Where is the girl you mentioned?" Advertisement. If possible, I hope to meet him. Quote. 0. After hearing that Levi had won, everyone present suddenly became extremely excited, because they had been thinking about who could solve this girl's problem before. At least with their ability, they would definitely not be able to solve it. It is precisely because of this that under such circumstances, if Levi is willing to take action, it will of course be easy to solve this problem with Levi's ability. Time passed little by little, Levi's eyes fell in front of him, and everyone followed and laughed at this time. Advertisement. The people present quickly reflected, and under their leadership, Levi arrived at a small village not far away. But when he just arrived around this small village, he heard roars coming from the village. That is to say, after this situation, he naturally felt a little confused, but he turned his head to look at the other people around him, only to find that there were 0.7 people around him, and each of their faces they all showed frightened expressions. Under such circumstances, the expression on Levi's face became a little strange. After thinking for a moment, Levi sighed. If my guess is correct, this should be the girl you mentioned, right? What's going on with him? 249. Do you want to eat me? Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Yes, this is indeed the girl we are talking about. Every time he goes crazy, he will look like this. Listening to the voice, he should be very hungry now. After hearing Levi's question, the old man nodded to Levi at this time, and Levi showed a surprised expression after hearing this. Well, when you listen to the noise, it looks like a beast no matter how you look at it. I didn't expect it to be a girl. It seems that this girl is indeed not simple. As he spoke, he walked towards the village. The village looked very dilapidated, but Levi knew that if nothing else happened, the girl's points must have contributed to the dilapidation. Advertisement. And under such circumstances, the further he walked in, the more clearly he could hear the girl's voice. Beside Levi, Robin and Golden Lion followed closely behind. Of course, Golden Lion looked confused. The expression shows that she is just a puppet now, so she will only obey Levi's orders. Not to mention Robin, Although he is still a normal person, he has never encountered such a situation, and he is just a weak woman, so when he encounters such a situation, of course also at a loss. What kind of person would make such a sound? No matter how I listen to it, I feel very strange. Number 4 showed a puzzled expression at this time. But at this moment, a series of fast-running sounds suddenly came from the village, and the sound came to everyone in front of them in a short time. Advertisement. Only then did Levi finally see clearly what the shadow was. It was indeed a girl as other people in the village said, but the girl in front of him did look too burly. The arms of the girl in front of her are thicker than Levi's thighs, and the muscles all over her body look sharp and angular, giving the impression that she is full of explosive power. It was as if the girl could break anything in front of her with one full blow at the next moment. At the same time, the girl's eyes were flashing red, giving people a somewhat terrifying look. Feel. Of course Levi also felt some curiosity in his heart, but at this moment, the girl's eyes fell on Levi, and Levi couldn't help but be stunned for a moment. Could it be that this little girl's movie actually are you focusing on yourself? At this moment, your famous girl suddenly burst into laughter, and looking at his appearance, drool started to flow from the corner of her mouth. Advertisement. It was under such 863 circumstances that Levi's eyes fell on them. At this moment, the girl suddenly pounced in the direction of Levi. His speed was extremely fast, and he made a sound when he moved. Levi's eyes fell on the girl, and at the same time, the girl jumped up high and rushed directly towards Levi. It seems that he is very confident in his own strength. Levi couldn't help but smile, but to Levi, there was certainly nothing to be afraid of about this girl, and Levi didn't even need to do it himself. 250. This girl is not simple. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Beside Levi, Golden Lion disappeared instantly. When he reappeared, he had already come to Levi's side. He raised his hand following the fingertips, and at the same time, his palm had already fallen on Levi's side, on the girl's neck. At this time, the girl jumped down from midair and judging from his appearance, this time it could be said that she had used all her strength. Just when he was about to fall on Levi, the power of the Golden Lion suddenly burst out. Under the power of the Golden Lion, the girl was hit hard to the ground, and the ground followed closely. Everyone trembled at this time, and it was at this time that they couldn't help but see this scene. He curled his lips. Although this girl now looks like a muscular monster, her face is still very beautiful, but because of the crazy expression, it looks a little distorted, and Golden Lion is too merciless in this way. Advertisement. When the girl over there was pushed to the ground by the Golden Lion, Levi also thought deeply for a moment. But he quickly figured out what happened and the main problem. If nothing else happened, it turned out that the girl would become like this because she was too hungry. Judging from his appearance, he should regard himself as food and want to eat himself, so if he can find other food at this time, he should be able to relieve his state. According to other people in the village, when the girl went crazy before, they would give food to the girl, and after the girl had eaten enough, she would naturally become normal. Advertisement. It is precisely for this reason that in the next period of time, it is best for him to find some food to give to the people in front of him. Under such circumstances, Levi thought about it and looked at the Golden Lion and Robin in front of him. The person said seriously, "You two wait here for me for a while, and then try your best to control this bitch for me." 1. Although the strength of this girl is very terrifying, Levi believes in Golden Lion. After all, he was once the top strong man in the world. It is too easy for him to control a crazy little girl. After the explanation, Levi turned around and left. He returned to the place where the previous group of villagers were, and the villagers were shocked when they saw Levi reappearing. They never expected that Levi would reappear in this place, so their expressions became a little weird at this time. Advertisement. So under such circumstances, they were naturally a little panicked. Could it be that even Levi couldn't solve this matter? Levi couldn't help but laugh when he saw this scene. Of course he could guess what these people were thinking, but he also listened again in front of these people, and then, How to Jiao, said with a smile. "Don't worry, I came here just hoping to seek some help from you." As he spoke, he stood in front of everyone, and everyone was stunned for a moment after hearing this, but they all raised their heads and looked at Levi, but at this moment they found that Levi was standing still. After a moment, Levi closed his eyes again, and everyone present was dumbfounded.